Chapter 677. Zhuhai City despair filled Luo Xing and the other two's eyes. They were unwilling to be eliminated so early. Looks like we can only abandon the mark. Luo Xing sighed as he looked at the approaching trio. Just as he was about to discard the dragon-shaped mark on his palm, a terrifying air-rending sound descended from the sky. Rumble. The air-rending sound descended like a shadow. The trio's faces changed slightly, and they involuntarily stepped back in the air. Their faces were filled with fear. The black shadow flashed and stood quietly on the ground. The three young men in blue narrowed their eyes as they discovered that this black shadow was actually a huge bronze coffin. At this moment, the surface of the coffin had a gap opened, and an unconcealable terrifying pressure poured out. The trio's faces were filled with bewilderment while Luo Xing and the other two were pleasantly surprised. They looked at each other and recognized the owner of the bronze coffin. It's him! Luo Xing and Qing Lian said excitedly. Qin Baishan's face was also filled with relief. Unknowingly, they had regarded the small figure as their pillar of support. As long as he appeared, he would definitely be able to settle the matter. Who is it? How dare you spoil our Lihua County's business? I think you are tired of living. The youth in blue shouted coldly, and there was a trace of seriousness in his eyes. He could feel that the bronze coffin before him was not simple. Is Lihua County that great? You dare to openly hunt down the geniuses of Muqing County and bully them with your numbers. Your Lihua County's way of doing things is really admirable. A clear voice slowly rang out. Then, a slender figure stepped out from the void behind them. His eyes were cold and his black hair danced in the wind. He was holding a bone spear that was about a foot long. Swoosh! In an instant, Zhuowen leaped onto the bronze coffin and stared coldly at the trio. Zhuowen, be careful. These people are not simple, Luo Xing suddenly reminded. I know. Zhuowen replied as he stared coldly at the blue-clothed young man and the others. Zhuowen had naturally seen the scene of the blue-clothed young man chasing after Luo Xing and the others. The blue-clothed young man clearly did not hold back at all. He intended to directly kill Luo Xing's group and snatch the dragon-shaped seal on their bodies. His methods could be said to be extremely cruel. This caused the killing intent in Zhuowen's heart to surge. Are you Zhuowen? We wanted to look for you. However, I didn't expect that you would deliver yourself to me. The blue-clothed youth's cold gaze focused on Zhuowen as he spoke in a deep voice. You know me? Zhuowen was a little surprised. No, I don't. However, young Master Lai Yun and Lord Flamewing specifically mentioned you and told us to take special care of you, the blue-robed youth said with a chuckle. Zhuowen nodded when he heard this. It seemed like young Master Lai Yun and Flamewing's resentment towards him far exceeded his expectations. They had actually ordered their subordinates to take special care of him. Unfortunately, Zhuowen was no ordinary genius in their eyes. The corners of Zhuowen's mouth curled up into a cold smile as he said, You're courting death. You can't blame me in the slightest. We're courting death. Haha, what an ignorant kid. You think you can kill us? I think you're dreaming. The blue-clothed young man roared with laughter, as if he had encountered something extremely amusing. Then you can come and try. Zhuowen took a step forward as he spoke coldly. Let me deal with this arrogant brat. The black-clothed young man standing to the left of the blue-clothed young man laughed coldly as he took a step forward and pounced towards Zhuowen. This person's strength was not bad. He had actually reached the mid-stage of the ultimate emperor realm. Unfortunately, such strength was nothing before Zhuowen. Are you in a hurry to die? Zhuowen flicked his bone spear through the air, leaving afterimages in its wake. The sneer on the black-clothed young man's face instantly froze as he felt a sharp pain in his chest. He didn't know when, but the bone spear had pierced through his chest. What's going on? How can your bone spear be so fast? The black-clothed young man spat out a mouthful of blood as he slumped to the ground and lost all signs of life. It's not that my spear is fast. It's that you're too slow. Zhuowen shook his head. With a flick of his bone spear, the black-clothed young man's corpse fell from the sky like a willow catkin, smashing into the ground and creating a huge crater. All of you can come at me together, Zhuowen said arrogantly as he held his bone spear horizontally. The blue-clothed young man and the others narrowed their eyes. They hadn't expected Zhuowen's strength to be so freakish. The black-clothed young man was a mid-stage ultimate Emperor realm expert, but he had been finished off with a single spear strike. Attack together. We have to kill this person. The blue-clothed young man frowned slightly. Although Zhuowen's strength had exceeded his expectations, they had the advantage in numbers. They didn't fear Zhuowen at all. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The blue-clothed young man led more than 20 people and surrounded Zhuowen. They stared coldly at Zhuowen, as if they were going to eat him alive. Sometimes, numbers don't always work. Zhuowen smiled faintly. He stepped into the air, and 3 pairs of lightning wings sprouted from his back. The lightning wings opened and closed, and his speed soared to the extreme. He turned into an ethereal bolt of lightning. So fast. Where is he? The blue-clothed young man and the others were shocked. With 3 pairs of lightning wings, Zhuowen's speed had reached a terrifying level. Puchi! Blood and miserable cries suddenly rang out from the group. The blue-clothed young man's eyes narrowed as he discovered that the 5 people at the back of the group had been killed instantly. However, he didn't see Zhuowen's figure at all. Damn it! Be vigilant and release your defensive spiritual treasures. As long as we can block this person for a while, we can attack together. The blue-clothed young man roared. As soon as these words came out, the surrounding people immediately released their defensive spiritual treasures. For a time, brilliance covered everyone's body, and they looked very dazzling. Is it useful? A faint mocking voice sounded in everyone's ears like rolling thunder. Then, another bolt of lightning flashed through the void. The defensive spiritual treasures of the 5 warriors at the outermost circle were instantly shattered. Then, their eyes widened, and their hands covered their necks. They completely lost their breath. Lightning flashed and killing followed like a shadow. As long as the lightning passed, there was almost certain death. In a quarter of an hour, more than 20 people brought by the blue-clothed young man were all slaughtered by Zhuowen, even if they had released their defensive spiritual treasures in advance. However, in front of Zhuowen, who was far stronger than them and had mastered spear intent, they were like clay chickens and pottery dogs that couldn't withstand a single blow. The blue-clothed young man stood alone on the spot. He looked at his companions who had already turned into corpses around him, and felt a bone-chilling fear, as he looked at the fiendish god, who seemed to have returned from hell. How can you be so strong? Are you also an ultimate 6-wheel Emperor Realm warrior? The blue-clothed young man slowly retreated. Zhuowen's performance just now was too valiant. It was so valiant that he couldn't even muster a shred of resistance. Didn't young Master Lai Yun say that the strongest person in Wuxia County was Lve Tao? Lve Tao's strength was only at the initial stage of the ultimate 6-wheel Emperor realm. Even if Lve Tao was here, he probably wouldn't be able to do what Zhuowen had done. This youth was definitely an ultimate 6-chakra Emperor realm cultivator. Moreover, he was much more terrifying than an ordinary ultimate 6-chakra Emperor realm cultivator. Zhuowen remained silent. He stepped into the void and instantly swept past the blue-clothed young man. He waved his bone spear and a cold light flashed. A severed arm shot into the sky. I won't kill you either. Go back and tell that bastard Lai Yun that if he wants revenge, he can come to Blue Fire City at any time. Zhuowen will be waiting in Blue Fire City. Zhuowen's indifferent voice rang out. He kicked the blue-clothed young man's back with his right foot, causing him to spit out blood and fly backwards. Zhuowen, I'll remember you. Young Master Lai Yun will definitely avenge us. Just you wait. The blue-clothed young man spat out these words viciously before he transformed into a streak of light and vanished before Zhuowen's eyes. Zhuowen didn't pursue him. He wanted to lure the snake out of its hole. Zhuowen was rather displeased that young Master Lai Yun had targeted Wuxia County. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. At the same time, dragon-shaped imprints emerged from the corpses below and disappeared into the depths of Zhuowen's palm. Zhuowen immediately discovered that the imprint on his palm had become extremely dazzling. At the same time, the number 25 appeared beside the imprint. Clearly, he had collected 25 dragon-shaped imprints now. Zhuowen was in a great mood now that he had collected 25 dragon-shaped imprints in one go. He arrived before Luo Xing and the others with a single step. Zhuowen, Why did you let the blue-clothed young man leave? Young Master Lai Yun isn't easy to deal with. Letting the blue-clothed young man go back and inform him wasn't a wise choice, Luo Xing said in confusion. Qin Batian and Qing Lian were confused as well. They didn't understand Zhuowen's actions either. Young Master Lai Yun was a genius ranked 13th on the Azure Emperor rankings. He was far more powerful than Lve Tao. It was said that he had reached the mid-six-wheel king realm. Although Zhuowen was also at the peak six-wheel king realm, he was only at the early stage. Moreover, young Master Lai Yun had many subordinates from the Lihua prefecture. If young Master Lai Yun brought his subordinates to attack Green Fire City, wouldn't they be in danger? Don't worry, I will deal with young Master Lai Yun, Zhuowen said indifferently as he shook his head. Luo Xing and the others shook their heads when they heard Zhuowen's words. They thought that if they really couldn't defeat young Master Lai Yun, they could just abandon the imprints. They wouldn't have such a grudge in their hearts. Let's go to Green Fire City first. The three of you are heavily injured. Go and recuperate for a while. As he spoke, Zhuowen flicked his finger, and an enormous bronze paper kite appeared before the four of them. The four of them stepped onto the back of the bronze paper kite. Next, the bronze paper kite flapped its wings and transformed into a green blur that vanished into the horizon. 3 days later, the blue-clothed young man finally returned to Zhuhai City with his severed arm. When the blue-clothed young man arrived in Zhuhai City in a sorry state, the other geniuses from the Lihua prefecture were shocked. Chapter 678. Waiting for rabbits outside the Peach Blossom Origin Diagram. The lords of the 8 commandery regions, the patriarchs of the 5 great clans, the Azure Emperor and other experts were all seated on a table, silently observing what was happening inside. Haha, Muqing County is truly a bunch of trash. Your so-called 5 geniuses don't seem to be much after all. Flame Wing, who was sitting on the opposite side of the table, couldn't help but let out a hearty laugh when it noticed that the geniuses from Muqing County had been completely wiped out. When it saw Luo Xing's group of 3 being chased to the extreme, its laughter became even more ear-piercing. Shut your dog mouth, Lu Hantian said coldly. Flamewing wasn't angered at all. They were in front of the throne room, and the Azure Emperor was present. Lu Hantian didn't dare to act rashly. What? Are you feeling guilty? Hasn't the facts proved that your Muqing geniuses are nothing but trash? That girl should be Luo Xing, right? She's said to be second only to Lui Tao. I never expected the second genius to be such trash. Flamewing purposely raised its volume as it shook its head. The mockery in its words was extremely thick. Lu Hantian and Lu Nanshan's expressions were extremely ugly, but they couldn't refute Flamewing's words. What had happened inside the Peach Blossom Origin Diagram was indeed as it had said. Luo Xing and the other 2 were being chased down in an extremely miserable state. Those 3 seem to have been rescued? Flamewing suddenly exclaimed. Lu Hantian's gaze also focused. A faint smile appeared on his lips when he noticed that it was Zhuowen. Ha! Looks like the geniuses of Lifire Commandery are in for it. Flamewing frowned slightly when he heard this. He had also recognized that it was Zhuowen who had attacked. He sneered. Do you really think that little bastard Zhuowen can stop the joint forces of over 20 Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivators? From Flamewing's point of view, Zhuowen's appearance was nothing more than suicide. These 20 geniuses were the elites of Lifire County, and the blue-robed youth was the number 2 genius of Lifire County. He was a peak 5-wheel emperor. What use would a puny Zhuowen be to them? However, what happened next made Flamewing's jaws drop. Zhuowen killed the black-clothed young man with a single move, and then he transformed into a bolt of lightning that moved through the encirclement as if he was unstoppable. Within 15 minutes, over 20 geniuses had been slaughtered by Zhuowen. Even the young man in a blue shirt had lost an arm. If it weren't for Zhuowen's mercy, the young man would have died too. Zhuowen is this strong? Flamewing's pupils shrank to the size of needles as it muttered to itself in disbelief. He knew that Zhuowen was definitely a 6-wheel Emperor Realm cultivator, but what puzzled him was when such an unknown genius had appeared in Muqing County. He'd originally thought that Zhuowen was just an insignificant genius from Muqing County, But now it seemed that Zhuowen wasn't much weaker than Lve Tao. TSK. The geniuses of Lifefire Commandery are really nothing but a bunch of useless trash. They're like chickens and dogs before Zhuowen. Didn't someone just say that the geniuses of Muqing County were trash? Now it seems that Muqing County is still a little better than Lifefire Commandery. Your Lifefire Commandery is worse than trash. Lu Hantian laughed heartily as he stared at Flamewing. He didn't hold back at all. Just now, Flamewing had spoken so arrogantly that Lu Hantian couldn't help but feel aggrieved. Now he had to return the favor. Flamewing's face alternated between green and white as it coldly snorted. It's mainly because Lai Yin isn't here. If Lai Yin was here, that Zhuowen would be nothing but an ant before Lai Yin. Bullshit. In front of Zhuowen, your bullshit young master Lai Yin is not even worth a fart. Lu Hantian said shamelessly. When it came to shamelessness, Flamewing was no match for Lu Hantian. Lu Hantian was shameless to the bone. He had no shame and dared to say anything. If he said he was second in shamelessness, no one would dare to say they were first. Once Lai Yin arrives at Bluefire City, that Zhuowen will die without a doubt. How can he be so arrogant and despotic? With a cold snort, Flamewing no longer argued with Lu Hantian. It was extremely confident in Lai Yin's strength. Zhuowen had been able to kill over 20 Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivators, and even cut off the arm of a peak Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator in blue. His strength should be around the early stage of the Ultimate Emperor Realm. There was still a certain gap between such strength and Lai Yin's. Flamewing didn't believe that Zhuowen was a match for Lai Yin. Within Zhuhai City, within the hall of a luxurious pavilion, Lai Yin looked at the one-armed youth in blue with an ugly expression. The 25 people you brought with you were all killed? And he was killed by Zhuowen? Young master, it's not that I'm incompetent, but that Zhuowen is just too terrifying. He's definitely an Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator as well. Just a single thrust of his spear was enough to cut off my arm. The others were like chickens and dogs in front of him. They were utterly defeated. The blue-clothed youth's eyes were filled with intense fear when he recalled the scene from 3 days ago. Zhuowen was just too terrifying. All the subordinates he'd brought with him had been like paper in front of Zhuowen. They hadn't been able to resist at all. He knew that only young Master Lai Yin before him could suppress an expert like Zhuowen. Looks like we've still underestimated that little bastard Zhuowen's strength. He's killed a quarter of the geniuses of my Lifefire County. He must be eliminated. Lai Yin's eyes were filled with a ghastly cold light when he spoke up to hear. 25 people were already a quarter of the people that had participated in the Battle of the 9 Counties. It could be said that they had suffered heavy losses this time. If he didn't take revenge, then where would the dignity of his Lifefire County go? Young Master Lai Yin, what should we do now? The blue-clothed youth asked in a trembling voice. Let's go. Bring everyone and follow me to Greenfire City. Since Zhuowen is so arrogant as to wait for me to come, then I'll come and show him. Today, I must cripple that little bastard. Lai Yin flicked his sleeves and walked out of the hall. The blue-clothed youth following behind him had a look of ecstasy on his face. He could finally avenge his severed arm this time. Thinking of the scene where Zhuowen had cut off his arm, the blue-clothed youth's eyes turned cold. This time, with Lai Yin taking action, Zhuowen would definitely die. Lai Yin's rallying power was still extremely strong. In less than 2 hours, more than 50 geniuses of Lifefire County, who had stayed in Zhuhai City, had gathered in the sky above the city under Lai Yin's command. Follow me to Greenfire City. This time, we'll break into Greenfire City and kill the remaining members of Muqing County. We must uphold the dignity of my Lifefire County. Lai Yin shouted loudly. His voice was like thunder, rumbling and shaking the entire area. We'll follow young master's orders. More than 50 geniuses of Lifefire County stared at Lai Yin with reverence in their eyes. They shouted in unison, and their voices resounded through the clouds. Let's go. Lai Yin nodded in satisfaction. With a flick of his sleeve, he led the 50 Ultimate Emperor Realm geniuses towards Greenfire City. At this moment, Zhuowen stood silently on the walls of Greenfire City. Luo Xing, Qing Lian, and Qin Batian stood beside him like statues. The 4 of them faintly gave off a terrifying aura. causing the guards on both sides of the walls to tremble in fear. Below the walls, Nangong Shidu stared at the 4 figures on the walls with a complicated gaze. 4 days ago, Zhuowen had suddenly returned from outside the city with 3 people. What shocked Nangong Shidu was that all 3 of them were ultimate Emperor Realm cultivators. Moreover, they were terrifying experts that far surpassed the ancestor of the Nangong family, Nangong Haotian. Just who is Zhuowen? They actually have 3 ultimate Emperor Realm experts. Moreover, these 3 people seem to faintly follow Zhuowen's lead, Nangong Shidu said in surprise. Not far away from Nangong Shidu, Wuxia and Wuxia both had shocked expressions as they stared at the 4 powerful figures standing on the city wall. These were 4 ultimate Emperor Realm cultivators that far surpassed Nangong Haotian. If their guess was correct, the 4 of them were definitely at the 5-wheel ultimate Emperor Realm or above. Even in the capital of bordering sea country, experts at this level of cultivation were peak experts. However, in a small city like Greenfire City, 4 of them had appeared all of a sudden. It was naturally extremely inconceivable. This was especially true for Qing Lian and Luo Xing, who were standing beside Zhuowen. Their temperaments were otherworldly, and their appearances were peerless. If either of them were to be placed outside, they would be peerless beauties capable of causing the downfall of nations. But right now, the 2 of them were staring at Zhuowen, their beautiful eyes surging with emotions. Wu Xi and Wu Xia were both women, so they could naturally tell that Luo Xing and Qing Lian were clearly interested in Zhuowen. Wu Xia's face became gloomy when she thought about how these 2 devastatingly beautiful women had feelings for Zhuowen at the same time. Although she was quite beautiful, the difference between her and Qing Lian and Luo Xing was too great. Not only were Luo Xing and Qing Lian more beautiful than her, even their strength far surpassed hers. Wu Xia felt slightly ashamed of her inferiority when she looked at the 2 women. However, Wu Xi had a bitter smile on her face. No wonder Zhuowen didn't take a fancy to her at all. It turned out that he actually had such peerless beauties by his side. At this moment, Wu Xi couldn't help but recall Nangong Lingtian's hypocritical smile and Zhuowen's cold and steady appearance. She suddenly felt extremely regretful. However, there were times when regret was useless, because some things would be missed forever once they were missed. Zhuowen, have you really decided to face young Master Lai Yin? After all, he's a monstrous genius ranked 13th on the Azure Emperor rankings. It'll be extremely difficult for you to deal with him, Luo Xing said worriedly. Don't worry. I know what I'm doing, Zhuowen said indifferently as the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. Zhuowen's cultivation had already advanced to the late stage of the ultimate 6-wheel Emperor stage. His strength had more than doubled compared to before. If he used all his trump cards, Zhuowen could even fight with the number 1 genius of the 8 great counties, Wenao Xue. He might even have the upper hand. Young Master Lai Yin was only at the intermediate stage of the ultimate 6-wheel Emperor stage. So what if he had the advantage in numbers? He, Zhuowen, was least afraid of being outnumbered. Luo Xing and the others' impression of Zhuowen was still the same as when they were in Muqing County. They thought that Zhuowen was still at the early stage of the ultimate 6-wheel Emperor stage. Although Zhuowen had grasped spear intent, young Master Lai Yun's battle prowess was extremely terrifying and not easy to deal with. Chapter 679. Qin Baishan's tragic death. Zhuowen's eyes flickered with light as he raised his eyebrows. With his 5 senses, he could sense even the slightest movement from several hundred miles away. At this moment, there were 50 figures with terrifying auras flying over from several hundred miles away from Greenfire City. All of them were ultimate Emperor Realm cultivators. Looks like young Master Lai Yin has really come. He's really fast. Zhuowen stood silently on the city wall. A gentle breeze blew past, lifting Zhuowen's messy hair, giving him a unique temperament. Zhuowen's voice wasn't loud, but Luo Xing, Qing Lian, and Qin Batian weren't ordinary people. Naturally, they could clearly hear the contents of his words, causing their gazes to turn solemn. Although their 5 senses were not as sharp as Zhuowen's, they could still sense a sense of urgency from the various strange phenomena in the sky, as if a storm was about to come. A trace of nervousness appeared on the faces of Luo Xing and the others. They had witnessed young Master Lai Yun's terror in Zhuhai City. Back then, young Master Lai Yun had only used a single move, and their combined defense had crumbled inch by inch like paper. Young Master Lai Yun was too strong, so strong that the three of them didn't want to face him again. Zhuowen, you don't know how terrifying young Master Lai Yun is. Although young Master Lai Yun's cultivation is only at the mid-stage of the Ultimate Emperor realm, the strength he's displayed is extremely terrifying. It's enough to match an ordinary peak or late-stage Ultimate Emperor realm cultivator, Qin Batian suddenly said. Zhuowen nodded and said, I know. Young Master Lai Yun is ranked 13th on the Green Emperor rankings. There's no need to doubt his strength. Since you know, why do you still plan to meet him head-on? It's not worth it for us to do so, Qin Batian said with some displeasure. Although Zhuowen was strong, Qin Batian still didn't believe that Zhuowen's strength was comparable to young Master Lai Yun's. There was still a certain gap between the two. You're worried because you think I'm not as strong as young Master Lai Yun, right? Zhuowen tilted his head and stared at Qin Batian as he said indifferently. Qin Batian nodded. He was indeed worried about this. He had always thought that Zhuowen's actions were too crazy. They could have avoided young Master Lai Yun completely. After all, the Peach Blossom Origin Diagram battle was a battle to determine the top 100. There was no need to go all out. Over 30 of our Muqing County's geniuses were schemed against and killed by young Master Lai Yun. Do you also feel that this grudge should not be avenged? You Lai Yun's Lai Yun, Yun's Yun. Batian said Batian. Zhuowen spoke once more. At this moment his tone was much heavier. Originally, he did not want to face an expert like young Master Lai Yun so early. But young Master Lai Yun had been targeting Muqing County in every way, especially when he had schemed against over 30 geniuses of Muqing County to death for no reason. How could he not be furious? Zhuowen had never been one to settle matters peacefully. Since young Master Lai Yun had provoked him, Zhuowen had no reason to ignore him, or even avoid a battle. Can't you see young Master Lai Yun's attitude towards Muqing County? Even if you escape now, young Master Lai Yun will still target us after we enter the heart of darkness. Since that's the case, why don't we settle things here? Zhuowen said indifferently. As the sound of his voice faded, Qin Batian's lips twitched as a bitter smile appeared on his face, but he didn't refute. Zhuowen was right. Sir Lai Yun was intentionally targeting their Muqing County. Even if they chose to flee now, when they arrived at the heart of darkness, it would still be difficult for them to avoid a battle. Swish, swish. Suddenly, numerous terrifying sounds of the air being torn apart abruptly swept over from the horizon. Raising his head and looking over, the sky above Greenfire City was actually filled with flickering silhouettes, and there were a total of over 50 silhouettes. An unconcealable pressure enveloped the entire Greenfire City like the heavy air, causing the hearts of countless people in the city to jump and their faces to turn pale. What a terrifying pressure! What's going on? Who are these people? Everyone in Greenfire City raised their heads and noticed the 50 figures that were flying over from the horizon. These figures were all flying through the air as fast as lightning. They're all Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivators? How can there be so many of them? Nangong Shidu's face was extremely pale, as his lips couldn't help but tremble. Only Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivators could walk through the air. These 50 people that had suddenly descended were all Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivators. Wuxia and Wuxi were also extremely pale. This was the first time they had seen such a large group of Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivators. Swish! The 50 figures arrived in the sky above Greenfire City. They silently hovered in the air as they looked down on Greenfire City like lofty gods. A resolute man with short fiery red hair and flame-like robes slowly walked out from the crowd. His fiery red eyes stared at the 4 people on the city walls as he said indifferently, "The 4 of you are quite bold. You clearly know that I'm coming, yet you didn't flee at all. These people are looking for Zhuowen's group?" As soon as Lai Yun spoke, Nangong Shidu keenly knew that this group of people had not come for Greenfire City. Instead, they had come for Zhuowen and the others. That's fine too. With so many Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivators, Zhuowen is dead for sure. Instead of being shocked, Nangong Shidu was overjoyed. Zhuo Wen had barged into the Nangong family without permission and killed Nangong Lingtian and Nangong Haotian. Nangong Shidu had long hated Zhuo Wen to the bone. Unfortunately, Nangong Shidu did not have the courage to make a move due to Zhuo Wen's powerful strength. However, it was different now. With so many Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivators surrounding them, and the fiery red-robed young man, Nangong Shidu felt an extremely strong sense of danger. He knew that this group of people was enough to completely wipe out Zhuo Wen's group of 4. When he thought of Zhuo Wen's death, a trace of an excited smile appeared on Nangong Shidu's face. Big brother Zhuo. Wuxia's beautiful eyes were filled with worry as she stared at the sky. Although Zhuo Wen was powerful, there were too many experts in the sky above Greenfire City. Even she did not think that Zhuo Wen would be able to survive the encirclement. A mocking smile appeared on Wuxi's pretty face. Ever since she was chased out of Zhuo Wen's room a few days ago, Wuxi hated Zhuo Wen to the core. She wanted nothing more than for Zhuo Wen to die tragically in front of her. Young Master Lai Yun's gaze swept past Luo Xing's group of 3 and landed on Zhuo Wen, who wore a bronze mask at the front. He sneered, "Zhuo Wen? What? Are you too ashamed to face others? You're actually wearing a bronze mask." Raising his head slightly, Zhuo Wen said indifferently, "I just don't want some trash who's worse than a dog to see my true appearance. I don't want to be dirted by some dog's eyes." "Who are you calling a dog's eyes?" Young Master Lai Yun's expression was cold as he said in a low voice. Wish Trash answered, "Of course it's who." Zhuo Wen said indifferently, Good. You really have guts. You actually dare to be so arrogant in front of me? You really don't know the immensity of heaven and earth." As he spoke, young Master Lai Yun's gaze landed on Luo Xing's group of 3 beside Zhuo Wen. He said indifferently, "A wise man submits to circumstances. The 3 of you should have seen my strength before, right? Don't tell me you want to follow this trash to your deaths? I'll give you a chance now. Retreat immediately, and I won't make things difficult for you. I won't seize the imprints in your hands, and will let you leave Greenfire City. How about it?" Young Master Lai Yun said indifferently. Luo Xing's group of 3 heard this, and their eyes flickered. Among them, Qing Lian stood firmly beside Zhuo Wen and said indifferently, "Zhuo Wen has saved me many times. I don't plan on leaving Zhuo Wen." Luo Xing also stepped forward and glanced at Zhuo Wen before saying coldly, "Qing Lian is my junior sister. I have no reason to not care. Oh, I'm giving you a chance to enter the top 100, and you're not willing to grasp it? Looks like this trash Zhuo Wen has some luck with women." Young Master Lai Yun glanced at Luo Xing and Qing Lian, who stood firmly beside Zhuo Wen. He couldn't help but click his tongue in wonder. Soon after, his gaze landed on the silent Qin Batian. "What about you? As long as you're a fool, you should be able to tell who's stronger and who's weaker. It's not too late to make a decision now, hee." Qin Batian's eyes flickered. The top 100 of the Green Emperor leaderboard was extremely important to him, and he wasn't willing to be eliminated just like that. "Qin Batian, do you think young Master Lai Yun's words can be trusted? Don't let others take advantage of you." Zhuo Wen's gaze landed on Qin Batian as he said calmly, "Zhuo Wen, Luo Xing and Qing Lian, I'm sorry. The Green Emperor leaderboard is very important to me, and I don't want to give it up just like that. You can call me cowardly or afraid of death, but I don't want to lose this opportunity." Qin Batian said apologetically. With a stomp of his foot, he leapt down from Greenfire City and turned into a streak of light as he flew towards the horizon. The smile on young Master Lai Yun's lips grew even wider as he said in a low voice, "A wise man submits to circumstances, hee." As he spoke, he waved his right hand, and a pillar of fire gushed out from the horizon, instantly catching up to the fleeing Qin Batian. "Ah, young Master Lai Yun, you actually went back on your word." A miserable shriek rang out as Qin Batian's figure was instantly devoured by the terrifying pillar of fire. He only had time to utter a single sentence before his entire body turned into ashes. "Young Master Lai Yun, you." Luo Xing's face was filled with baleful aura as she looked at Qin Batian's instant death. Her tone was extremely cold. "What about me? Hee. I didn't make any promises just now. Can't I just say it casually? You can only blame your companion for being as stupid as a pig. He actually thought that I would let him go. Haha, what a joke. Young Master Lai Yin laughed mockingly. Young Master Lai Yin, you've done well. You actually dared to kill someone from my Muqing County right in front of me. Zhuo Wen's gaze turned even colder as an extremely terrifying aura burst out from his body. A mountain-like aura gushed out from his body. Rumble! The enormous walls of Green Fire City were actually unable to withstand this aura and collapsed into ruins. What a terrifying aura! How can Zhuo Wen's aura be so powerful? This aura has actually reached the late stage of the Six-Wheel Emperor realm. This Chapter 680 10 Direction Ultimate Killing Formation, Late Stage 6 Chakra Emperor? Luo Xing and Qing Lian were stunned as well. Their beautiful eyes focused on the unruly figure with fluttering hair in front of them. Their eyes were filled with surprise and joy. They were surprised that Zhuo Wen's cultivation had risen so quickly. They were happy that Zhuo Wen didn't fear young Master Lai Yin at all with his current cultivation. No wonder Zhuo Wen has always been so confident. It turns out that he is already so powerful. Luo Xing and Qing Lian thought to themselves as they stared at Zhuo Wen's back. Young Master Lai Yin, weren't you very arrogant and insufferably arrogant just now? Now I, Zhuo Wen, challenge you to a duel. Do you dare to fight me alone? Zhuo Wen raised his head and stared at young Master Lai Yin. His voice rumbled like thunder. Young Master Lai Yin's pupils shrank, and his expression became extremely ugly. If it had been at the start, young Master Lai Yin wouldn't have minded a duel with Zhuo Wen at all. However, after Zhuo Wen displayed his terrifying cultivation as a late-stage 6-chakra emperor, he hesitated. His cultivation was only at the mid-stage 6-chakra emperor realm. Although he had powerful trump cards, did Zhuo Wen not have any? It was clearly unwise to fight Zhuo Wen alone. What? Are you afraid? The number 1 genius of Lihua Commandery, a monstrous genius ranked 13th on the Azure Emperor ranking, is actually a coward who's afraid of a battle. Zhuo Wen's voice was like thunder as he mocked. Young Master Lai Yin narrowed his eyes and said coldly, Zhuo Wen, aren't you too pleased with yourself? A mere late-stage 6-chakra emperor dares to be so arrogant. If you have the ability, come out and fight us. Young Master Lai Yin, I've never seen someone as thick-skinned as you. At first, you were so aggressive and wanted to kill me, Zhuo Wen, with your own hands. Now that you've discovered that your cultivation is inferior to mine, you want to bully me with numbers. Moreover, your words are so dignified. The thickness of your skin has already exceeded my understanding. Zhuo Wen shook his head. The sneer on his face deepened, and his words were even more merciless. Young Master Lai Yin's face was cold as he said coldly, I came here to encircle and annihilate you. Why would I want to fight you one-on-one? How naive and foolish. Since you're not coming, I'll do it then. With a cold snort, Zhuo Wen took a step forward. His entire body was like a bolt of lightning as he shot towards young Master Lai Yin. A terrifying aura erupted, causing the surrounding space to distort and collapse, turning into an endless hurricane. Zhuo Wen, you're too impulsive. Luo Xing and Qing Lian's pretty faces changed slightly. Zhuo Wen's movements were too fast, and they couldn't stop him in time. Zhuo Wen's body flew up into the sky as light as a swallow. Although Zhuo Wen was a late-stage 6-chakra ultimate emperor, and might have no problem dealing with Sir Lai Yin, Sir Lai Yin had over 50 ultimate emperor realm experts behind him. There was no lack of 5-chakra ultimate emperor realm experts. Even if Zhuo Wen was a late-stage 6-chakra ultimate emperor realm expert, his life would still be in danger when faced with such a lineup. Zhuo Wen really is a madman. He actually wants to fight over 50 ultimate emperor realm experts by himself? He's just courting death. Within the city walls, Nangong Shidu's gaze was filled with a strange expression as he watched the unruly figure shoot into the sky. In his opinion, Zhuo Wen's actions were simply courting death. At this moment, countless people in Blue Fire City raised their heads and stared at the figure that had shot into the sky. They all had different expressions on their faces as they discussed amongst themselves. He's really bold. He actually dares to fight 50 people by himself. In my opinion, he's all brawn and no brains. The 50 people in the sky are all Ultimate Emperor Realm experts. Even if he's also an Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator, 2 fists are no match for 4. How is he going to fight 50 people? Discussions resounded like thunder. There were both praises and criticisms, but the majority believed that Zhuowen was courting death. A powerful lineup of 50 ultimate Emperor Realm cultivators wasn't something that an ordinary person could resist. Haha, he's come at the right time. Form the absolute slaughter formation. This kid must die. Young Master Lai Yun smiled coldly as he watched Zhuowen shoot into the sky. His eyes were filled with dense killing intent. He was already rather surprised that Lve Tao had appeared in Wuxia County, but now this Zhuowen before him was actually even more terrifying than Lve Tao. He had to die. Moreover, this Zhuowen wasn't even 20 years old. His natural talent was much greater than Lve Tao's. If he was given time to develop, he would definitely become another Lve Hantian. He wouldn't be able to eat or sleep in peace if he didn't eliminate this kid. Yes. The 50 geniuses behind young Master Lai Yun shouted in unison. Their eyes were filled with killing intent. They could feel the threat that Zhuowen posed. Especially since this kid was a genius from Wuxia County, Lifire County's mortal enemy. He had to be killed. Rumble. More than 50 geniuses from Lifire County stepped on the void and drew a strange trail in the void. They circled around a dozen miles in an indescribable pattern. Waves of terrifying yuan force surged out from their bodies. More than 50 light pillars shot into the sky. They were like stone pillars that pierced the sky. The surging energy almost tore the void apart. In the dark black hole, 10 black stone statues that were 100 feet tall slowly descended. The original form of the black stone statues was a terrifying giant beast of various shapes and sizes. They were baring their fangs and brandishing their claws. Their eyes were wide open, and they bared their fangs. Their bodies were covered in scales. The 10 black stone statues were arranged in 10 different directions, forming a killing zone that spanned a dozen miles. Thick black fog swirled and lingered around the stone statues, causing the faces of the stone statues to be faintly discernible. Zhuowen's figure was instantly enveloped by the absolute slaughter formation and disappeared without a trace. The people below couldn't see what had happened to Zhuowen. Absolute slaughter formation? Qing Lian and Luo Xing's faces became extremely ugly as they stared at the black stone statues that were arranged in 10 different directions in the sky. The absolute slaughter formation was a grade 4 yuan formation. However, it was not composed of yuan crystals. Instead, it used cultivators' yuan force to connect with the core diagram of the formation, summoning the 10 ancient stone statues in the void and unleashing terrifying battle prowess. Moreover, the more cultivators there were, the more powerful the 10-sided slaughter formation became. The 10-sided slaughter formation formed by over 50 ultimate Emperor Realm cultivators was extremely terrifying. Even a peak 6-wheel ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator, like Wen Ao Shui, would find it extremely troublesome to deal with once he entered the formation. At this moment, Lu Hantian frowned outside the peach blossom origin diagram when he saw Zhuowen trapped by the absolute slaughter formation. A sliver of worry appeared in his eyes. The absolute slaughter formation formed by over 50 ultimate King Realm cultivators was definitely not weak. Although Lu Hantian was rather confident in Zhuowen's strength, the absolute slaughter formation was still a powerful formation formed by over 50 people. It would truly be difficult for Zhuowen to deal with it by himself. What a brat who doesn't know the immensity of the heavens and earth. The death of this brat would be of great benefit to our Lifire prefecture. The corners of Flamewing's mouth curled up as he sat nearby. He had truly been shocked by Zhuowen's display of strength as a late-stage 6-wheel ultimate King Realm expert. He knew that the true strongest expert of Wuxia prefecture was probably Zhuowen. His desire to kill Zhuowen grew even stronger. However, the worry in his heart completely vanished the moment Zhuowen entered the 10-directional absolute killing array. He had specially prepared the absolute slaughter formation for the geniuses of Lifire prefecture. If 100 geniuses of Lifire prefecture were gathered together and young Master Lai Yun presided over the formation, the absolute slaughter formation would be enough to kill an early 7-wheel ultimate King Realm cultivator. Even a mid 7-wheel ultimate King Realm cultivator would be heavily injured if they entered. Although there were only around 50 people present, it was more than enough to kill a late-stage six-wheel ultimate king realm cultivator like Zhuowen. The absolute slaughter formation? Zhuowen glanced around at the 10 black stone statues within the black mist. A sliver of seriousness appeared in his eyes. He could sense that the absolute slaughter formation was extraordinary. Absolute slaughter formation, overturn heaven and earth. A deafening roar rang out from all directions. Afterwards, the black paint on the stone statues peeled off as terrifying green-faced, fanged beasts emerged from within. Zhuowen, you're dead for sure now that you've fallen into the absolute slaughter formation. Enjoy your final moments. An arrogant voice drifted over from the surroundings. Zhuowen recognized the owner of the voice to be young Master Lai Yun. Enjoy my final moments? Shouldn't I be the one to say that? With a cold snort, Zhuowen stomped his foot, and the 3 pairs of lightning wings on his back suddenly unfurled. He transformed into a bolt of lightning and dodged the attack of the beast closest to him. Whoa! At the same time, the remaining beasts roared at the sky and moved together. They swept towards Zhuowen. Their cold scales glowed with a cold light in the black mist. In an instant, the 9 heavens and 10 earths were enveloped by the 10 giant beasts. Zhuowen's tiny figure seemed so insignificant in front of the 10 giant beasts. This spear has a soul. It's called Spear Intent. Seeing that all the exits had been blocked off, Zhuowen knew that he could only fight. He held the bone spear in his hand horizontally as Zhuowen murmured in a low voice. A profound spear intent surged out from the body of the spear to the tip of the spear. Rumble! In an instant, countless terrifying spear intents formed countless huge spear shadows in the void. With Zhuowen as the center, they spread out. The spear was the path of the Overlord. It was unrestrained and unrestrained. This terrifying blue spear shadow had pushed the spear intent to the extreme. It was as if it was the only supreme existence in the world. No one in the 9 heavens and 10 earths could rival it. This was the spear intent. The concept of the spear was overbearing and unrestrained. It was unrestrained and unrestrained. It was as if all the mountains were small. A blue spear shadow that was hundreds of feet long shot out from the void, bringing with it countless blue spear prints. They stacked layer upon layer in the surrounding space, forming a domain that looked exceptionally terrifying. Kacha! The 10 beasts roared. Under the bombardment of the terrifying spear shadows, they were forced to retreat 100 meters away. However, their black scales that glowed with a cold light were not damaged in the slightest. The hardness of their scales was truly shocking. This Zhuowen has actually grasped spear intent. His strength has actually reached such a level. Somewhere in the black mist, young Master Lai Yun, who was presiding over the entire array, finally revealed a look of shock when he saw the 10 beasts being forced back by the terrifying spear shadows. Zhuowen's strength was too strong. His cultivation was a level higher than his, and he had actually grasped the power of concept that martial artists yearned for even in their dreams. This kid must die. Chapter 681. Six-colored sea of flames roar. Earth-shaking roars rang out in the black foggy space. The auras of the 10 huge beasts skyrocketed to a terrifying level. They rumbled as they charged towards Zhuowen once again, their footsteps causing space to tremble. Their aura has increased by a lot. Zhuowen's eyes narrowed as he stomped his feet without any fear. The bone spear in his hand trembled as he unleashed his advanced spear intent to the extreme. Terrifying blue spear shadows spread out once again. Bang! The blue spear shadows struck the bodies of the 10 giant beasts. What caused Zhuowen's pupils to shrink was that the 10 giant beasts were as stable as boulders. They did not retreat in the slightest. Instead, their momentum did not decrease as they rushed straight towards Zhuowen. Boom! 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 10 mountain-like fist winds whizzed over as they blasted towards Zhuowen. The terrifying power actually crushed the surrounding space into countless glass shards. Great Sun Nirvana, death. Zhuowen's face changed as golden light flickered around his body. A golden pillar of light shot up into the sky as it pierced through the void. 1,000-foot-tall golden giant stepped out from the crack in the void. One fist against 10. The terrifying fist winds formed countless ripples in the air. Crack! The golden giant let out a sorrowful cry as it was shattered into golden light. The 10 fists did not decrease in power as they charged towards Zhuowen. Greater limitless sword array. Come out! Zhuowen coldly shouted as his terrifying mental energy swept out. At the same time, rays of cold light shot out from his spiritual ring as a huge sword array appeared around his body. It was like an iron wall as it surrounded Zhuowen. Bang! 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 The 10 consecutive fists caused a terrifying buzzing sound to erupt. The Greater Limitless Sword Array was indeed a 5th-grade origin array. Although it was incomplete, its toughness was extremely shocking. The 10 fists of the giant beasts were actually blocked by it. Puff! Although it blocked most of the fist aura, the aftershock of the fist aura still made Zhuowen spit out a mouthful of blood. Let's go! 3 pairs of lightning wings flapped as Zhuowen turned into an illusory lightning shadow. He disappeared from where he was and appeared at the edge of the black fog as he stared fearfully at the 10 giant beasts with crimson eyes in front of him. Zhuowen, just give up and surrender. The 10 direction killing array is not something a mere ultimate 6-wheel Emperor Realm warrior can block. Young Master Lai Yun's smug voice came from within the black fog. That may not be the case. Zhuowen coldly replied as he wiped off the blood from his mouth. You still want to be stubborn? Since you're not, you're Young Master Lai Yun, of course. Lai Yun. Immediately, the 10 giant beasts rushed towards Zhuowen like crazy demons. Their auras were even more terrifying than before. Of Yin of the heavens, Lin Zhuowen licked his cracked lips as he looked at the limitless sword of the 6th direction killing array. His eyes were burning with passion. Ever since he had obtained the purple cloud from the east and the 9 nether cold flame, Zhuowen had never used the flame fusion art to fuse the 6th direction killing array. It was not that Zhuowen did not dare to try, but that his mental energy was not enough. However, when Zhuowen came to the imperial capital, his mental energy had already reached the complete 4th grade. He knew that he was now qualified to fuse the 6th direction killing array. Sizzle! With a flick of his sleeve, the 9 heavens thunder flame, the blood flame, the purple cloud from the east, the 9 underworlds cold flame, the star flame, and the 3000 azure lotus flame immediately revolved around Zhuowen. Fuse! Nearly 100 streams of mental energy rushed out from his Naiwen palace. They turned into mediums and mixed among the 6th direction killing array, acting as catalysts in an attempt to quell the conflict between the earth fires. Swoosh! In just a moment, the 6th direction killing array had all entered Zhuowen's right palm. Then Zhuowen squeezed his palm. Suddenly, the 6th direction killing array turned into a terrifying hurricane, with Zhuowen as the center. Awa! At the same time, the limitless sword of the 6th direction killing array had already arrived. Zhuowen was not afraid at all. With a stomp of his foot, the 6th direction killing array surged out and formed a sea of fire around him. The sea of fire grew larger and larger, occupying 1/3 of the black fog space in an instant. Moreover, the sea of fire continued to spread. The 10 limitless sword of the 6th direction killing array were instantly engulfed by the 6th direction killing array. The limitless sword of the 6th direction killing array began to peel off after encountering the 6th direction killing array. The limitless sword of the 6th direction killing array began to crumble. Break it for me. Zhuowen's cold voice resounded throughout the entire space. The 6-colored sea of fire expanded once again, engulfing the entire black foggy space. As for the 10 giant beasts, they were all reduced to dust by the even fiercer flames. At this moment, everyone in Blue Fire City, including Luo Xing and Clear Lotus, raised their heads to look at the sky, watching the black fog space. Everyone wanted to see what the result would be. Outside the Peach Blossom origin diagram, Lu Hantian, Lu Nantian, and Flamewing were also paying close attention to the situation inside the 10 direction killing array. Lu Hantian and Lu Nantian were worried sick, but Flamewing was sneering, as if victory was already within its grasp. This old fox is very arrogant. Seeing Flamewing's smug expression, Lu Hantian was even more displeased. He wanted to go up and slap Flamewing. Lu Hantian, what a pity. Such a monstrous genius from your Muqing County is about to fall. It seems that the heavens are truly jealous of geniuses. Haha. Flamewing laughed heartily. I dare you to say that again. Lu Hantian said coldly. What? Do you want to fight in front of the throne room? Come at me. I'm not afraid of you. Flamewing deliberately glanced at Emperor Qing, who was at the center of the table. Flamewing grew more and more unbridled. With Emperor Qing here, Lu Hantian couldn't do anything to him. Big brother, calm down. The result is not out yet. Who knows what the result will be? I'm afraid that Zhuowen might be able to escape. Lu Nantian hurriedly pulled Lu Hantian back and said in a low voice. Are you still holding on to your fantasies? How laughable, Flamewing sneered mockingly. Lu Hantian and Lu Nantian ignored Flamewing. Instead, they stared nervously at the peach blossom origin diagram. The result was not out yet. No one could say for sure whether Zhuowen was dead or alive. Flamewing shrugged and returned his gaze to the peach blossom origin diagram. He was still full of confidence in the 10-point kill formation. He'd already sentenced Zhuowen to death the moment he entered the 10-point kill formation. The bickering between Lu Hantian and Flamewing had attracted the attention of the other experts on the table. They'd all been focused on the situation of their respective geniuses and hadn't paid attention to the battle between Zhuowen and Sir Laiyun. However, Lu Hantian and Flamewing's performance had naturally attracted their attention. Muqing County's Zhuowen and Laiyun County's Sir Laiyun are fighting? Zhuowen is quite strong. He's actually a late-stage six-wheel emperor. Unfortunately, this Zhuowen is a little too arrogant. He actually dared to enter the 10-point kill formation. He's basically courting death. With the strength of these experts, they naturally understood the situation very quickly. Sir Laiyun was a monster ranked 13th on the Azure Emperor rankings and was extremely famous. Ever since Zhuowen had struck the morning bell and evening drum 10 times in the Drunken Spring Pavilion, his reputation had also been quite good. Many people thought highly of him, so the clash between the two had immediately attracted their attention. In their opinion, both Sir Laiyun and Zhuowen were completely capable of entering the top 100 of the Azure Emperor rankings. It could be said that the two of them were rather unlucky to encounter each other before the ranking battle. Rumble. In the sky above Azure Fire City, the enormous black fog that spanned dozens of miles suddenly began to churn violently, as if something was trying to break free from it. The changes in the black fog were immediately noticed by everyone. Everyone stared closely at the churning black fog. Then, to their shock, the black fog suddenly exploded, and a monstrous six-colored sea of fire swept out from within. Dang! 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 The moment the black fog broke, more than 50 figures let out a series of muffled groans as they were sent flying in all directions, spitting out mouthfuls of blood. The absolute kill formation had actually been broken. Within the six-colored sea of fire, a figure holding a bone spear slowly walked out while stepping on flames. With a swing of the spear in his right hand, the six-colored sea of fire surged out in all directions like a tidal wave. Ah! Miserable cries rang out one after another. More than 10 people who were closest to the sea of fire were instantly devoured by the sea of fire and turned into ethereal ashes. Run! The remaining 30 people were frightened when they saw the dozen people being devoured by the sea of fire. They hurriedly fled in all directions, trying to escape. Do you think you can escape? Zhuowen's indifferent voice rumbled out. With a stomp of his foot, the six-colored sea of fire stirred up a terrifying wave and blasted towards the remaining 30 people. Quickly throw away your imprints and leave the Peach Blossom origin map. Seeing the terrifying sea of fire surging towards them, the Lihua Commandery geniuses were finally terrified. They quickly threw away the imprints in their palms and turned into pillars of light to leave the Peach Blossom origin map. However, the speed of the sea of fire was too fast. Although these people threw away their imprints in time, nearly half of them were still devoured by the sea of fire. Only about 10 people successfully escaped the Peach Blossom origin map. Zhuowen, just you wait. I Laiyun will repay you 100-fold for killing so many people of my Lihua Commandery. The moment the absolute kill formation was broken, Laiyun had already sensed that something was wrong. He had already given up on the absolute kill formation and fled into the distance. He knew that even the absolute kill formation could not do anything to Zhuowen, so it was even more impossible for him to do so. Thus, it was better to flee. It was Lai Yun who had irresponsibly given up on the absolute kill formation first. Thus, after the absolute kill formation was broken, the Lihua commandery geniuses were caught off guard, and almost all of them were wiped out. If Lai Yun had not left the absolute kill formation early, the Lihua commandery geniuses would not have suffered such heavy losses. At the very least, they would have been able to throw away their imprints and successfully leave the Peach Blossom origin map. Unfortunately, Lai Yun valued his own life too much. He would rather have a greater chance of escaping and not hesitate to sacrifice the lives of the Lihua commandery geniuses. What a shameless person! You did not hesitate to sacrifice the lives of the Lihua commandery geniuses to buy yourself time to escape. Do you think you can escape like this? Chapter 682. Young Master Lai Yun has died. Young Master Lai Yun's expression was extremely ugly at this moment. He had never thought that the 10-point slaughter formation would actually be destroyed. His mood sank to rock bottom. Zhuowen is a freak. He even destroyed the 10-point slaughter formation. A sliver of fear appeared in young Master Lai Yun's eyes when he thought of the terrifying six-colored flames. The power of the Sea of Fire far exceeded the power that a late-stage ultimate six-wheel Emperor Realm practitioner could wield. Fortunately, I sensed that something was wrong and left the 10-point slaughter formation in advance. Otherwise, Zhuowen really might have been able to kill me. Young Master Lai Yun did not feel that there was anything wrong with abandoning the geniuses of the Lifefire Commandery. As long as he could escape with his life, even if he had to abandon all the geniuses from the same commandery, he could still do it. Zhuowen, just you wait. I, young Master Lai Yun, will definitely have my revenge. Since you're so strong, are the other geniuses of the Muqing Commandery as well? I will personally kill all the geniuses of the Muqing Commandery, young Master Lai Yun said viciously as he clenched his fist. Young Master Lai Yun, I'm afraid you won't have the chance. Suddenly, an indifferent and clear voice slowly rang out from behind young Master Lai Yun, causing him to stiffen slightly. He quickly turned his head, and immediately saw the figure he did not want to see the most rapidly rushing toward him. Zhuowen? God damn it, how is this guy so fast? Young Master Lai Yun's expression changed drastically. He pushed off the ground and increased his speed by several times. He vanished from where he stood like a bolt of light. Unfortunately, Zhuowen had 3 pairs of lightning wings. He was much faster than regular Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivators. No matter how fast young Master Lai Yun increased his speed, he was unable to shake off Zhuowen. Moreover, the distance between them was shrinking at a visible rate. Zhuowen, do you really want to kill me? Young Master Lai Yun turned around and roared furiously. You've tried every means to kill me. Do you think I'll let a hidden snake like you go? It's safer for me to kill you. A cold smile appeared on Zhuowen's face. He unfurled his wings and increased his speed once again. The distance between them had shortened by quite a bit. Damn it! Zhuowen, remember this. I, young Master Lai Yun, will not let you off. Seeing Zhuowen closing in behind him, young Master Lai Yun gritted his teeth and raised his right palm, intending to abandon the mark on his palm. Trying to escape? It's not that easy. Zhuowen narrowed his eyes and saw young Master Lai Yun's intentions with a single glance. He tightened his right hand, and the bone spear shot out like an arrow. With a flash of cold light, young Master Lai Yun's right hand was severed from the shoulder, causing blood to spurt out. With a miserable howl, young Master Lai Yun's face turned pale. Large beads of sweat flowed down his forehead, but his eyes were filled with fear. Once his right hand was severed, he had completely lost his connection with the imprint. Now, he was unable to abandon the imprint and leave the Peach Blossom origin diagram. Zhuowen, let me go. If you kill me, the Lihua Prefecture will not let me off. You have to think carefully. With a flash of lightning, Zhuowen appeared in front of young Master Lai Yun, causing young Master Lai Yun to tremble and beg for mercy. If the 10-sided absolute kill formation could not kill Zhuowen, then there was no need to talk about young Master Lai Yun. In front of Zhuowen, he could only be killed. Beg for mercy? Is that useful? when you led more than 50 geniuses and aggressively descended on Green Fire City. Did you think about sparing me, Zhuowen? If I, Zhuowen, wasn't strong enough, I'm afraid I would have already become a wandering ghost. Zhuowen coldly snorted. With the spin of the spear in his right hand, a terrifying spear intent surged out and swept past young Master Lai Yun at a seemingly slow speed. Young Master Lai Yun wanted to resist with all his might, but the terrifying spear intent was not something he could block. Pucci! Another severed arm soared into the sky. Young Master Lai Yun's remaining left arm was also severed at the shoulder. When you promised to let Qin Batian go, but resolutely broke the agreement, did you think about sparing Qin Batian? Zhuowen stomped his foot, and the bone spear swept out again. Young Master Lai Yun's legs were severed at the knees in a flash of cold light. In an instant, all 4 of young Master Lai Yun's limbs were severed, and he became a complete cripple. Zhuowen, you will not have a good death. With his limbs severed, young Master Lai Yun's heart was like dead ashes. He roared towards the sky, his voice filled with intense resentment. At this moment, his heart was already filled with intense regret. He hated himself for provoking a fiend like Zhuowen. Originally, with his strength, entering the top 15 of the Green Emperor list was extremely easy. As the number 1 genius of Lihua Prefecture, his future was limitless. But now everything was over. His limbs were severed, and he had become a cripple. All of his future had become bleak in his opinion. Not having a good death. Haha, the weak are prey to the strong. This is the law of this world. If you are weaker than me and killed by me, then I will not have a good death. Then what about those weaklings you usually kill? Don't tell me you will also have a bad death? Zhuowen shook his head and attacked again. With a shake of the bone spear, a cold light swept past young Master Lai Yun's neck. Blood spurted out, and a huge head soared into the sky. Young Master Lai Yun was completely dead. Swoosh! A golden seal flew over and entered Zhuowen's palm. At this moment, Zhuowen had already collected around 100 seals. They were basically obtained from the geniuses of Lihua Prefecture. Among them, young Master Lai Yun had provided Zhuowen with a total of 20 seals. Clearly, young Master Lai Yun had tricked many people in the past few months. That was why he could collect so many dragon seals. After killing young Master Lai Yun, Zhuowen did not stay any longer and left the place. After Zhuowen completely killed young Master Lai Yun, the outside of the peach blossom origin diagram fell into an eerie silence. All the experts on the table stared blankly at the scene within the peach blossom origin diagram. The 10 sides absolute kill formation had been broken, and the geniuses of Lihua Prefecture had suffered heavy casualties. Even young Master Lai Yun had not been able to escape death. He had been killed by Zhuowen in an incomparably miserable manner. Creak! Flamewing clenched his fists. His eyes were bloodshot, and his teeth were clenched. He stared at the peach blossom origin diagram, and the corpse of young Master Lai Yun that had been killed by Zhuowen. He could not believe that Zhuowen of Muqing Prefecture was so terrifyingly strong. The 10 sides absolute kill formation had not been able to kill Zhuowen. How is this possible? Lai Yun is dead. This is impossible. Flamewing's entire body trembled as he muttered to himself. The surrounding people cast pitiful gazes at Flamewing. The geniuses of Lihua Prefecture had suffered heavy casualties. Even young Master Lai Yun had been beheaded. Needless to say, Lihua Prefecture had suffered heavy losses, and might very well be ranked last in the War of the 9 Counties. It could be said that young Master Lai Yun had aggressively gone to Greenfire City to kill Zhuowen. No one had expected such an outcome. Young Master Lai Yun and the other geniuses of Lihua Prefecture had all become stepping stones for Zhuowen to become famous. This Zhuowen's strength is not bad. He is comparable to Wen'aoxue. The Azure Emperor sat at the center of the table and poured himself a cup of fine wine. He cast a surprised glance at Zhuowen and smiled faintly. His strength is not bad, but there is still a considerable gap between him and the top 10 geniuses on the Azure Emperor ranking. However, if Zhuowen were to fight Wen'aoxue, he might have a very high chance of winning. Li Jin, the commander of the Imperial Guards, who was standing behind the Lotus Emperor, suddenly spoke up. Don't worry. He had some impression of Zhuowen. When the world-suppressing Great Array was activated, this Zhuowen was the last to arrive. He had not expected that the little brat, whom he had not paid much attention to, would not be a match for young Master Lai Yun. Li Jin, it seems that you think highly of this Zhuowen, the Azure Emperor said with a meaningful smile. Li Jin no longer spoke. He lowered his head and remained silent. As the saying goes, accompanying a monarch is like accompanying a tiger. In front of an emperor like the Azure Emperor, he did not dare to speak too much. No one could guess the thoughts of an emperor. Haha, old dog Flame Wing, weren't you very proud and arrogant just now? Why aren't you speaking now? What bullshit 10-direction absolute kill array. It was as weak as tofu in front of Zhuowen. Lu Hantian suddenly laughed heartily. Even Lu Hantian was surprised that Zhuowen had broken the 10-direction absolute kill array and killed young Master Lai Yun. He was beginning to realize how extraordinary Zhuowen was. He knew that Zhuowen would definitely shine in the War of the Nine Counties. He was looking forward to Zhuowen's future development more and more. Within the peach blossom origin diagram, Luo Xing and Qing Lian's eyes were filled with splendor. They had not expected Zhuowen to be able to break the 10-direction absolute kill array. This was truly a shock to them. I can't see through Zhuowen anymore. How did he advance so quickly? It's unbelievable. Luo Xing's eyes flickered as she spoke in shock. Perhaps this is what a true monstrous genius is like. Qing Lian shook her head as splendor rippled in her eyes. She had already come into contact with Zhuowen back in the primordial cavern. She had originally thought that Zhuowen was only a genius with decent talent. But Zhuowen's performance had truly broadened her horizons. She had to admit that Zhuowen was truly a monstrous genius that only appeared once in 100 years. Luo Xing involuntarily nodded. Even she had to admit that Zhuowen's talent was truly terrifying. Suddenly, Luo Xing lifted her head slightly and looked towards the horizon. Zhuowen has returned. As soon as these words were spoken, a bolt of lightning suddenly flashed over from the horizon. It was like an arrow that had left the bow, and it instantly arrived in the sky above Azure Fire City, before the slender figure of a young man appeared. It was precisely Zhuowen who'd pursued young Master Lai Yun earlier. Zhuowen, how is it? Did you catch up to young Master Lai Yun? Qing Lian and Luo Xing asked at the same time. I've already killed young Master Lai Yun. The Lifefire Prefecture is no longer a threat. There's nothing to fear, Zhuowen nodded. Hearing this, the two girls knew that the Lifefire Prefecture was completely finished with young Master Lai Yun's death. The Lifefire Prefecture's ranking in the War of the Nine Counties would probably fall very miserably. Let's go. Follow me back to Blue Fire City first. Our target this time is the Heart of Darkness. That should be the place where all of us participants must go. With that, Zhuowen brought Luo Xing and Qing Lian back to the pavilion where the Nangong family resided. Chapter 683. Qing Xn. 3 days later, Zhuowen left Blue Fire City with Qing Lian and Luo Xing. With the map the Fire Cultivator Fairy had given them, reaching the capital of the Seaside Kingdom was no problem at all. Moreover, the Duanren horizon was hidden within the capital, so Zhuowen, Qing Lian, and Luo Xing had to visit the capital. Nangong Shidu sighed in relief as he watched the three figures gradually disappear into the horizon. Right now, he wanted nothing more than for Zhuowen to leave Blue Fire City as soon as possible. After witnessing over 50 Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivators fall at Zhuowen's hands, Nangong Shidu no longer felt any hatred towards Zhuowen. Zhuowen was just too terrifying. He was so terrifying that he couldn't even think of taking revenge. In a corner of Blue Fire City, Wuxia also raised her head to look at the departing figures. There was an unconcealable sense of loss in her eyes. She knew very well that it was impossible for her and Zhuowen to be together. All she could do was silently wish Zhuowen well in her heart. The Seaside Nation's capital was over 5,000 kilometers away from Azure Fire City. Even Zhuowen, Luo Xing, and Qing Lian spent an entire 2 months before finally arriving at the Seaside Nation's capital. In the deepest part of the capital, there was a natural danger zone. Cliffs that looked like broken blades were stacked on top of each other in this natural danger zone. This natural danger zone was called Duanren Horizon. It was an extremely famous danger zone in Bianhai country. Let's not be too ostentatious once we enter the capital. Although the participants are basically randomly distributed between the three nations, the capital of the Seaside Kingdom is the largest city in the Seaside Kingdom. There will definitely be many other participants gathered here. Zhuowen cautiously reminded when they were near the capital of the sea border country. This caused Luoxing and Qing Lian to become alert. The three of them concealed their presences to the limit. If one didn't look carefully, they wouldn't be able to tell that they were ultimate Emperor Realm cultivators. If one didn't look carefully on the streets, they wouldn't be able to detect their abnormalities at all. The capital of the Seaside Kingdom was rather lively. People came and went on the streets, so Zhuowen, Qing Lian, and Luoxing didn't attract any attention as they walked on the streets. Zhuowen, we can stay in the peach blossom origin diagram for a year, and only half of that time has passed. Furthermore, we still don't know how to enter the Duanren border. We need to stay in the capital for a while to understand the situation before heading to the Heart of Darkness. Luoxing suddenly suggested, "Yes, you're right. Let's find an inn in the capital and stay there for a while. We'll use this time to understand the distribution of the capital." Zhuowen nodded. Soon after, the three of them settled down in a place called Clear Heart Inn. The three of them kept a very low profile. Other than cultivating in their rooms, they would go out to gather information about the Duanren border. 2 months passed by, and Zhuowen and the other two finally managed to gather enough information about the Duanren horizon. It was said that the Duanren horizon was a natural danger zone that was used to defend against the attacks of the endless meta beasts outside of the Duanren horizon. The Duanren horizon had always been under the control of the capital's emperor. It was said that the Duanren horizon would open once every half a year for the warriors who wanted to venture outside of the Duanren horizon. Outside of the Duanren horizon was the Heart of Darkness. Everyone knew that there were many rare treasures hidden in the Heart of Darkness. Even the outer area of the Heart of Darkness had many precious treasures. There were some adventurous cultivators who knew they couldn't advance by relying on their own talent, so they would choose to venture into the Duanren border and enter the Heart of Darkness. If they were able to obtain a rare treasure, then their cultivation would be able to rise again and enter a higher realm. This was also the reason why the warriors who wanted to venture into the Duanren horizon still came in an endless stream, bustling with activity, even though the Duanren horizon was extremely dangerous. In another month's time, the half-year deadline would be up. The Duanren horizon was about to open once again. At this moment, the capital became extremely lively. Countless warriors rushed into the border sea country's capital in an uproar. The originally vast and spacious border sea country's capital had become a sea of people in these few days. It was extraordinarily lively. The entire capital was filled with countless warriors, and there was no lack of extremely terrifying experts among them. Zhuowen's 5 senses were far sharper than an ordinary person's. He could sense that the number of ultimate Emperor Realm cultivators who had entered the capital during this period of time was probably in the triple digits. He knew that these ultimate Emperor Realm cultivators were basically all participants. It was impossible for a mere border sea country to have so many ultimate Emperor Realm warriors appear all of a sudden. Although Zhuowen had discovered these participants, he did not have the slightest intention of making a move. The capital was too small. If he, Zhuowen, made a move, it would obviously alert the enemy. At that time, if the other participants joined forces and attacked together, even he, Zhuowen, would not be in a good situation. The best time to make a move was undoubtedly when they entered the Heart of Darkness. That was when the real slaughter would begin. On the first floor of Clear Heart Inn was the dining area. At this moment, there were many cultivators sitting around the tables and chairs. Most of them were drinking and chatting merrily, while discussing the upcoming Duanren border that had caused a great uproar recently. The opening of the Duanren horizon this time is very different from the previous years. It is said that there are actually a few ultimate Emperor Realm warriors entering the capital this time. A few. Could it be that the primogenitors of the other cities in the border sea country are also planning to challenge the Duanren horizon? There are a total of 15 cities in the border sea country. Among them, the primogenitors of 5 cities have reached the limit of their lifespans. If they want to extend their lifespans, they will have to make a breakthrough in their martial way. But to make a breakthrough in such a short period of time is basically impossible. So these 5 primogenitors have placed their hopes on the heart of darkness. 5 cities. There are so many this year. In the past, there were at most 2 primogenitors. This year, there are actually 5 primogenitors. It looks like there will be a good show to watch at the Duanren Horizon this time. There was a lot of discussion in the surroundings. Most of the topics revolved around the 5 primogenitors who had arrived at the capital. In the border sea country, Ultimate Emperor Realm warriors were considered to be at the pinnacle of existence. Because there were just too few Ultimate Emperor Realm warriors, the total number of Ultimate Emperor Realm warriors in the entire capital would not exceed 50. Thump thump thump. Suddenly, a series of footsteps came from outside the Qing Xian Inn. Then, a group of people quickly entered the inn. The person in the lead was a woman. She wore a noble emerald green silk dress and held a soft black whip in her hand. She was beautiful with a trace of heroic spirit. There were 2 pretty maidservants following behind the woman respectfully. The 2 maidservants were wearing a red dress and a blue dress respectively. Their faces also carried a trace of delicate arrogance. As soon as the woman in the green dress entered the Qing Xian Inn, she noticed that the place was packed with people. Her beautiful eyebrows immediately furrowed. She did not expect the inn to be full today. Looking around, the woman in the green dress immediately saw a rather remote location. There was a rather large table there. At this moment, there were only 3 people sitting at the table. There was still a lot of space. The 3 people were a man and 2 women. The man had a delicate appearance and was not very old. The 2 women were extremely beautiful, even more beautiful than the woman in the green dress. The 3 of them were sitting and discussing something. The woman in the green dress gave a meaningful glance to the maid in the red dress behind her. The maid in the red dress understood and nodded. Then, she walked towards the corner. The 3 people sitting in the corner were Zhuowen, Luo Xing and Qing Lian. The 3 of them were discussing the Duanren border that would open in a month's time. They did not notice the woman in the green dress little movements. Ever since they left Greenfire City, Zhuowen had taken off his bronze mask. He had only worn the mask to blend into the Wu family's group. Now he naturally did not need it. The maid in the red dress came in front of the 3 people's table. She took out a golden ingot from her bosom and threw it in front of the 3 people's table. She said rather arrogantly, "Our young miss has taken a fancy to your seat. I hope the 3 of you can give it to her." Looking at the golden ingot that suddenly fell on the table, Zhuowen and the other 2 people stopped their discussion. Their eyes revealed a strange expression. This place was not like the outside world, where spirit stones were used as currency. Instead, they used ordinary gold and silver to replace the common currency. "You want us to give up our seat?" Zhuowen glanced at the maid in the red dress in front of him and asked indifferently, "Do you think 1 gold ingot is not enough? As long as you give up your seat, our young miss will compensate you with 3 gold ingots. I think you should have profited, just giving up your seat, and you've earned 4 gold ingots." The maid in the red dress said arrogantly. Within the inn, the surrounding people had also noticed the disturbance at Zhuowen's side. In particular, when they saw that the red-dressed servant girl had actually casually taken out a gold ingot, everyone revealed a trace of astonishment. The value of a gold ingot was not low. Casually taking out a gold ingot, just to make someone give up their seat, could no longer be described as extravagant. It was simply a waste. Everyone knew that the green dress girl's status was not low. After all, not everyone could take out a gold ingot so casually. These 3 people are really lucky, just giving up their seat, and they can earn 4 gold ingots. Many people's gazes focused on Zhuowen and the other 2 people. Deep within their eyes, there was a strong sense of envy. They could not wait for them to voluntarily give up their seat. It's not a question of whether it's enough or not. This is our seat. Why should we give it to you? I want to ask you, who do you think you are? You can ask us to give up our seat. Zhuowen shook his head. The words he said immediately made the surroundings quiet down. What everyone did not expect was that the young man in front of them would actually reject the maid in the red dress's condition so straightforwardly. Not far away, the green dress girl frowned. She raised her foot and came to Zhuowen's table. She said coldly, "I'm a member of the Yu family in the capital. I'm sure you've heard of it. Give our Yu family some face and give up your seat. I won't pursue your rude behavior just now. It's actually the Yu family. This is the most powerful family in the capital. The king of the sea border country is the patriarch of the Yu family. I really didn't expect this girl to be a member of the Yu family." The moment the green dress girl opened her mouth, the surrounding people were all stunned. The Yu family's position in the capital was extremely respected. They were the family that inherited the king's position and were extremely powerful. The green dress girl revealed a smile. The surrounding people's reaction made her extremely satisfied and comfortable. Scram. Chapter 684. How the atmosphere in the inn immediately became strangely silent. The expression of the lady in green dress completely froze. Her beautiful eyes were filled with killing intent as she stared at the cold and indifferent young man in front of the table. Just now, the person who said the word scram was precisely this hateful young man in front of her. What she didn't expect was that after she revealed her Yu clan identity, this young man in front of her could actually still say such insulting words. The expressions on the faces of the surrounding people were also quite strange. The Yu clan was the clan of the emperor, the most terrifying and powerful force in the capital. After the green-dressed lady revealed her identity as a member of the Yu clan, an ordinary person's performance should be respectful and reverent. However, the attitude of the young man in front of them had really shocked everyone. "What did you just say? Say it again." The green-dressed woman's face flushed red as her voice became as cold as winter. No one had ever dared to be so rude in front of her. "I told you to scram. Don't you understand human language?" Zhuowen waved his hand impatiently. The green-dressed woman was too weak. She was only at the initial Earth King stage. He had no interest in wasting his breath on her. As for the Yu clan behind her, Zhuowen didn't care about them at all. In his eyes, even the king of the border sea country wouldn't be that powerful. His only goal was to enter the heart of darkness through the Duanren border. "How dare you? How dare you be so impudent in front of Princess Yuechen? Who gave you such courage?" The green-dressed woman's face turned even uglier. Just as she was about to make a move, a clear voice suddenly rang out from outside the inn. Everyone looked over and saw a handsome young man in his 20s. His face was as white as a crown, and his hair was tied up. He slowly walked in from outside. Following closely behind him was a middle-aged man with an indifferent expression. The man's aura was obscure, as if there was a ferocious tiger waiting to pounce. He wasn't simple at all. Zhuowen could tell at a glance that this middle-aged man was a half-step ultimate king realm expert. In the border sea country, this person's status must be extraordinary to have such an expert by his side. "It's Princess Yuechen. I heard that Princess Yuechen is the most beloved daughter of Yu Wufang. Her status is noble, and her limelight is unparalleled. Those three are going to be unlucky. They actually offended Princess Yuechen, who is currently in the limelight." The moment the young man's words left his mouth, a commotion broke out among the people in the inn. It was obvious that they had recognized the identity of the green-dressed lady. The young man slowly came to the side of the lady in green dress. His gaze was attracted by Qing Lian and Luo Xing, who were beside Zhuowen. Regardless of appearance or demeanor, these two women were not inferior to the lady in green dress. Moreover, to a certain extent, they even surpassed her. Such blessings were actually enjoyed by a lowly person. What a waste! Casually glancing at Zhuowen, the mocking smile on the corners of the young man's mouth became even more intense. In his opinion, this Zhuowen before him was simply a nobody. With his status, killing such a nobody was a simple matter. "Yu Hao, why are you here instead of staying in your Yu clan? Could it be that you followed me here?" Yu Chen frowned slightly and said with some displeasure. Clearly, Yu Chen was extremely displeased with this young man called Yu Hao. Her attitude was neither warm nor cold, and even somewhat disgusted. This person is the eldest young master of the Yu clan, Yu Hao? Although the Yu clan is not as powerful as the Yu clan, they are extremely wealthy and are vaguely the second most powerful clan in the capital. This Yu Hao is a rare genius of the Yu clan. In just a short 20 years, his strength has reached the terrifying level of the Heavenly King stage. He can be said to be extremely powerful. Once Yu Hao's identity was revealed, the surrounding people also revealed looks of surprise. This Yu Hao's identity and status were also extraordinary. Yu Chun, why are you treating me like an outsider? From now on, we will be a family. Yu Hao said calmly with a smile on his face. Yu Chun frowned and snorted coldly. A family? Yu Hao, you're thinking pretty well. This engagement doesn't count for anything to me. You still don't have the qualifications to marry me. However, Yu Hao was not angry at all. He said indifferently, it's the order of the parents and the words of the matchmaker. Even if Princess objects, it's futile because His Highness Yu Wufang has already agreed to this marriage. Hearing this, Yu Chen's face became even more gloomy. This Yu Hao's face was extremely dark, and his behavior was extremely unrestrained. Yu Chen did not have the slightest good impression of him, but her father wanted to marry into the Yu clan. This made Yu Chen feel extremely uncomfortable. Let's not talk about this for now. I'll help you vent your anger first. This brat's attitude just now was extremely vile and unforgivable. Yu Hao shook his head. Although the main character of the topic was Zhuowen, his gaze was not on Zhuowen at all. Instead, it was on Luo Xing and Qing Lian who were beside Zhuowen. Two ladies. Following such a lowly and useless person will only harm the two of you. If the two ladies don't mind, you can come to our Yu clan as guests. Yu Hao will definitely treat you well. Yu Hao said with a graceful smile. Who do you think you are? Are you qualified to make the two of us follow you? Luo Xing's autumn eyes were cold as she said indifferently. As soon as these words came out, Yu Hao frowned slightly. He did not expect that the two ladies in front of him would still dare to treat him with such an attitude, after he had already revealed his identity as the young master of the Yu clan. However, Yu Hao obviously still wanted to maintain his poise in front of the two ladies. His gaze quickly landed on Zhuowen as he said indifferently, I think you should have some self-awareness, right? Give up your seat now, and get out of the inn immediately. I won't pursue anything against you. Zhuowen's eyelids drooped slightly as he completely ignored Yu Hao's words. In other words, in Zhuowen's heart, this Yu Hao was simply as laughable as a clown. There was no need for him to pay attention to such a person. Looks like you refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Then don't blame me for being impolite. Zhuowen's indifferent attitude finally angered Yu Hao. Yu Hao's right hand formed into a claw and directly smashed towards Zhuowen's neck. He had used all his strength in this attack, and it would definitely be a fatal blow. Zhuowen was still sitting there motionlessly. When Yu Hao's attack arrived, a slender jade hand suddenly stretched out, and a cold light flashed past. Ah! A high-pitched miserable howl sounded, as Yu Hao clutched his wrist, and screamed at the top of his lungs. Everyone's gaze converged, and they were shocked to find that Yu Hao's wrist had been completely cut off at some point. Everyone's gaze shifted slightly, and landed on the table again. They saw Qing Lian's cold expression, as she held a cold longsword in her right hand. On the edge of the sword, there was still a trace of blood dripping from the tip of the sword to the ground. There was no doubt that Yu Hao's wrist was cut off by this woman in front of them. Sometimes, you have to pay the price for making irresponsible remarks. Don't use your high and mighty attitude to look at us because sometimes, there are some people you can't afford to offend. Qing Lian slowly sat beside Zhuowen and sheathed her longsword. What a fast sword! Everyone's pupils shrank. When Qing Lian attacked just now, they didn't see it clearly at all. It was too fast and they couldn't catch it at all. Now, as long as one was a fool, they would know that the three people in front of them were definitely not ordinary people. Yu Hao was a Heavenly King realm cultivator, but his wrist was cut off with a single strike. The difference between the two was too great. Yu Chen's beautiful eyes narrowed, and she couldn't help but take a few steps back. She didn't see how the woman attacked just now. She only saw a cold light flash past, and Yu Hao's wrist was cut off. Yu Qian, kill the three of them for me. I want them to die without a burial ground. Yu Hao clutched his wrist, his face twisted and his voice became extremely vicious. The middle-aged man standing behind him had an ugly expression. He could feel that the sword-wielding woman wasn't ordinary, because he couldn't see through her. Young master. These three people are not simple. It's best if we don't provoke them. After hesitating for a moment, the middle-aged man still didn't have the courage to go forward. The middle-aged man's attitude infuriated Yu Hao. He roared, "I'm your young master. Are you going to listen to me or not? If you don't, I'll go back and report this to great-grandfather. At that time, you'll suffer a fate worse than death." Hearing this, the middle-aged man shuddered. Thinking of the cruelty of the Yu clan, the middle-aged man's heart thumped wildly. In the end, he stepped forward and said in a low voice, "The three of you, young master is the eldest son of the Yu clan. You shouldn't have offended him. Since you have, the consequences will be very serious." As he spoke, the middle-aged man's half-step ultimate emperor realm aura surged out. His entire body was like a ferocious tiger as he charged towards Qing Lian. "Kill." Zhuowen calmly drank a cup of wine and slowly spat out a word. Qing Lian nodded and no longer held back. With a wave of her lily-white hand, she unsheathed her sword. A dazzling cold light flashed past once again. Then, the middle-aged man suddenly stopped in his tracks. It was as if time had stopped. "Yu Qian, what are you doing? Hurry up and kill these three." Seeing that the middle-aged man's body had stopped moving, Yu Hao roared in displeasure. However, as soon as the words left his mouth, Yu Qian moved once again. Yu Qian's body trembled a few times before he slowly fell to the ground. On his neck, there was a flat line of blood. The half-step ultimate emperor realm expert had only needed one strike. At this moment, whether it was Yu Qian or the surrounding crowd, they all looked at the sword-wielding woman in a different light. Only an ultimate emperor realm cultivator could kill a half-step ultimate emperor realm cultivator in an instant. Who are these three people? This woman who appeared so casually is actually an ultimate emperor realm cultivator. Yu Qian's beautiful eyes narrowed slightly. Her gaze swept past Qing Lian and landed on the young man who sat at the table like a boulder pouring wine. She could tell that these two powerful women followed the mysterious young man's every command. There was only one possibility for two ultimate emperor realm cultivators to obey this person's orders. This person's strength was absolutely above the sword-wielding woman's. When she thought of this possibility, Yu Qian was so nervous that her heart thumped wildly. She rejoiced in her heart that she hadn't clashed with Zhuowen's group earlier. Otherwise, her fate wouldn't have been any better than Yu Hao and Yu Qian's. Yu Qian is dead? How is that possible? Chapter 685. Yu family army Zhuowen. What should we do with him? Qing Lian glanced at Yu Hao, who was lying on the ground in fear, with disgust. She turned around to ask for Zhuowen's opinion. Kill him. This kind of person is nothing but a poisonous bug. Why don't we enforce justice on behalf of the heavens? Zhuowen said indifferently. No. I'm the young master of the Yu family, the second most powerful family in the capital. You can't kill me. Yu Hao's eyes were filled with fear as he howled crazily. Yu Qian couldn't bear to watch any longer. Yu Hao was the young master of the Yu family after all. She couldn't just stand by and watch. Her beautiful eyes flashed as she said in a low voice, "Forgive people whenever possible. The Yu family has a terrifyingly powerful ancestor. You'd better not offend them too much. Otherwise it won't be good for you." Hearing Yu Qian's words, Yu Hao seemed to have grasped the last straw. He hurriedly nodded and said, "Yu Qian is right. My grandfather is also an ultimate emperor realm expert. He's extremely powerful. If you kill me, he won't let you off." Zhuowen tilted his head and stared at Yu Qian. He said indifferently, "Didn't I tell you to get lost? Why aren't you getting lost?" Yu Qian's pupil shrank. She couldn't help but say angrily, this guy in front of her was too hateful. He actually didn't show any mercy. I'll give you 3 breaths of time. If you don't get lost, your fate will be the same as Yu Hao's. Zhuowen's clear voice slowly rang out. He flicked his finger, and a flickering golden energy shot out from his fingertip and entered between Yu Hao's eyebrows. Yu Hao didn't even make a sound as he collapsed on the ground. There was a thumb-sized bloody hole between his eyebrows. He was dead. He couldn't be more dead. Gasps could be heard all around. The Yu clan's young master, Xiao Hao, was killed just like that. Everyone's gazes gathered on Zhuo Wen. Their eyes were filled with fear. This person's strength was unfathomable. He didn't even put the Yu family in his eyes. He killed Yu Hao without the slightest hesitation. 1. Zhuo Wen's head was still lowered as he stared at the teacup in his hand. His clear voice slowly rang out, causing Yu Qin's pretty face turned ugly. This guy actually dared to kill Yu Hao. 2. When the second voice rang out, Yu Qin's pretty face turned ghastly pale. Her beautiful eyes flickered incessantly as she coldly snorted and said, "The Yu clan isn't that easy to deal with. You'd better take care of yourself. Let's go." In the end, Yu Qin did not dare to stay in the inn. Zhuo Wen even dared to kill Yu Hao, which was enough to prove that this person was audacious. It would not be strange for him to kill her, so she did not dare to joke around with her life. Who is this person? He's so strong. He even killed Yu Hao and forced Yu Qin away. How terrifying. After Yu Qin left, the surrounding cultivators in the inn began to discuss animatedly. Their gazes gathered on the Zhuowen trio. However, no one dared to openly stare at the three of them. After all, with Yu Hao's example, they did not dare to show the slightest bit of disrespect. Zhuowen could not help but shake his head when he sensed the curious gazes from the surroundings. They had originally wanted to quietly discuss the arrangements after entering the heart of darkness, but now that Yu Hao and Yu Qin had disturbed them, they were no longer in the mood. As night fell, the entire capital was shrouded in darkness like a black dragon. It was so dark that one could not even see one's own hands. Dim candlelight lit up every household, appearing so bright and dazzling in the night sky. In the depths of the Yu clan, in a hall that was as bright as day, a dignified middle-aged man in embroidered robes raised his head to look at the bright moon in the sky. He said indifferently, "Yu Hao is dead?" Behind the middle-aged man, Yu Qin in a green dress nodded. Her clear voice slowly rang out as she recounted everything that had happened in the Pure Heart Inn. "Ultimate Emperor Realm Cultivator? And he's about the same age as you. Then that sword-wielding woman must be a monstrous genius. When did such a young Ultimate Emperor Realm Cultivator appear in our seaside border country?" The middle-aged man was the ruler of the country Yu Wufang. His cultivation was unfathomable, and no one could compare to him. He was the undisputed ruler of seaside border country, possessing the ability to rule over the world. "I don't know. Those three people seem to have suddenly appeared in the capital. Their origins are mysterious." Yu Qin cupped her hands respectfully. Yu Hao is deeply loved by that old fellow Eugene. If that Eugene finds out that Yu Hao has been killed, it's inevitable that he'll make a big move. Yu Wufang said indifferently with his hands behind his back. "Then what do you mean, father?" Yu Qin's beautiful eyes flickered. It's easy to add flowers to embroidery, but difficult to provide timely help. If those three people are all Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivators, then they'll be of great help to our Yu clan. You should know, right? Yu Wufang smiled faintly. "Father, you mean, you plan to go against the Yu clan for those three people?" Yu Qin frowned slightly. Although the Yu clan was weaker than their Yu clan, it wasn't by much. If the two clans fought, the Yu clan could win, but it would be a Pyrrhic victory. But now, Yu Wufang was actually planning to go against the Yu clan for the sake of three strangers. This was something that Yu Qin could not understand. "Yu Qin, you're still too young. Think about it. How many Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivators does our Yu clan have? How many Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivators are there in the entire capital? If we can recruit those three Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivators, then the benefits to our Yu clan are beyond your imagination." Yu Wufang's eyes shone brightly. A trace of joy appeared in Yu Qin's beautiful eyes when she heard this. She could already understand Yu Wufang's words. Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivators were extremely important to a large force, but experts like that were extremely prideful and did not like to be restrained. Therefore, it was sometimes extremely difficult to recruit such experts. Moreover, the price one had to pay was also extremely high. Now that Zhuowen's group was going against the Yu clan, it was a great opportunity to recruit them. "Qin'er understands." Yu Qin lowered her head and said respectfully, That bastard Eugene should be unable to hold himself back any longer. He should be making his move tonight. Let's head to the Pure Heart Inn. Yu Wufang smiled faintly. He lifted Yu Chun with his right hand and disappeared from the pavilion. Boom! Boom! The earth-shaking sound of horse hooves resounded over the entire capital, causing many people in the capital to involuntarily open their windows. They saw a group of cavalry wearing pitch-black armor, rushing past on the streets like ghosts. At the head of the cavalry was a strange old man with white hair, a face as black as charcoal and scarlet-red eyes. He was currently leading the group towards the Pure Heart Inn with a baleful look on his face. If there was anyone present, they would definitely be able to recognize this old man. Wasn't he the ancestor of the Yu clan, Eugene? Eugene's name was renowned throughout the capital. He was vicious and merciless, and his methods were cruel. In the past, there was a disciple of a rather large force in the capital who had lost face because of jealousy with Yu Hao. Eugene had actually led the Yu clan army to torture and kill that disciple. Moreover, the organization behind that disciple had been razed to the ground by Eugene. His methods were extremely cruel. It was because of Eugene's extremely protective nature that there were basically not many people in the capital who dared to offend the Yu clan. Furthermore, Yu Hao was the first young master of the Yu clan, so it was even more impossible for anyone to offend him. This had also caused Yu Hao's arrogant and despotic nature. Other than the people from the Yu clan, he basically did not place anyone in his eyes. Today, Eugene had once again led the Yu clan army out in an aggressive manner, attracting the attention of quite a few practitioners in the capital. When everyone saw the long snake-like cavalry sweep past in the night, their hearts began to tremble. This was because they had recognized the strange army. Wasn't it the Yu clan army? The news of Yu Hao's death had already spread like wildfire in the capital. Hence, when the Yu clan army moved out, numerous cultivators swarmed towards Tranquil Heart Inn. They all knew that Eugene was definitely looking for Zhuo Wen and the other two to settle the score. The dragon-like cavalry stopped in front of the Pure Heart Inn. Waves of thunderous neighs continuously reverberated in this space, waking everyone in the Pure Heart Inn. Eugene's scarlet eyes stared at the Pure Heart Inn in front of him. His face was filled with a chilling intent as he roared. Today, no one in the Pure Heart Inn can even think of leaving. Kill them all. Don't leave a single one alive. Kill! Kill! The Yu clan army's battle cries soared into the sky. Riding their large horses, they surged into the Pure Heart Inn like ghosts. As long as there was a living person, they waved their merciless weapons and harvested all of them. Fresh blood practically dyed the surrounding night red. Countless drops of blood actually gathered on the ground to form a strange little stream. When the surrounding practitioners who had swarmed over to watch saw that the Yu clan army had actually indiscriminately massacred the Pure Heart Inn, all of their faces were filled with hatred and fear. Eugene was too tyrannical. Yu Hao had clearly only died at the hands of Zhuo Wen and the other two, but he had actually blamed everyone in the Pure Heart Inn, not leaving a single one alive. However, they did not dare to voice their anger. Eugene was very strong, and the Yu clan was very powerful. These were not things that they could shake. Therefore, they could only silently watch as the people in the Pure Heart Inn were slaughtered and torn apart by the Yu clan army. Howls and screams filled the sky. The entire Pure Heart Inn seemed to have turned into an azure hell. Countless drops of blood splattered everywhere, dyeing the clean floor red. The pungent smell of blood assaulted their nostrils like a flood, causing them to feel nauseous. You Pure Heart Inn are all accomplices in killing my grandson, so you all deserve to die. As for the mastermind, this old man will make him suffer a fate worse than death. Eugene was expressionless as he watched the hellish scene of blood splattering everywhere. A perverted smile actually appeared on his face. You really are scum. I was the one who killed that trash Yu Hao. It has nothing to do with the rest of the people in the Pure Heart Inn. A clear and melodious voice slowly rang out from within the inn, following which, the Yu family troops who had rushed into the inn to kill seemed to have stopped in their tracks, as if time had stopped. A cold blue light flashed past as three figures slowly walked out from the depths of the inn. Stepping on the blood that covered the ground, they passed through the surrounding Yu clan army and finally arrived outside the Pure Heart Inn. Plop, plop. The sound of heavy objects falling to the ground rang out. The Yu clan army, that had been unscrupulously slaughtering in the inn, had actually all fallen into a pool of blood at this moment. Each of them had died with their eyes wide open. Chapter 686. Yu Wufang, looks like you do have some strength. But don't tell me you think that just because you have a bit of strength, you can be unbridled and arrogant in the capital? Sneered Eugene. Unbridled and arrogant? Zhuowen looked at Eugene like he was looking at an idiot. He said indifferently, I should be the one saying that. The unbridled and arrogant ones should be your Yu family, right? Indiscriminately killing the innocent people of the Pure Heart Inn. You're also the scum of the human race. Those words coming from your mouth are like farts. They have no credibility at all. When these words were spoken, the surrounding onlookers stared at Eugene with strange gazes. Zhuowen was right. Wasn't their Yu clan army the ones who were truly unbridled and arrogant? Eugene narrowed his eyes. He said coldly, arrogance requires capital. Our Yu family is the second family in the capital. Our strength is close to the Yu families. Isn't killing some ants very normal? Weak ants deserve to be killed, because their strength was so weak that they couldn't even protect their own lives. Trash like that deserved to die. When Eugene said this, many of the surrounding warriors glared at him angrily. Eugene's words were too arrogant. Did the weak not have the right to live? Eugene said that those who were weaker than him deserved to be killed by him. This kind of strange thinking infuriated quite a few people. Unfortunately, Eugene's strength was too great. No one dared to refute him. They knew that once they opened their mouths, with Eugene's character, they would have to pay the price in blood. What nonsense! Eugene, the capital is ruled by our Yu family. Your Yu family seems to be meddling too much. Suddenly, a loud and clear voice rumbled from the distance. The dense sound of iron hooves rolled over like thunder. At the end of the street, another group of cavalry with imposing auras swept over. At the front of the group was the dignified Yu Wufang. He rode a white horse in high spirits. Beside him was the beautiful Yu Chun. The Yu family's people. That's the Yu family's Imperial Guard. I really didn't think that Yu Wufang would even bring the Imperial Guard. Is it to help those three people? Just who are those three people? Yu Wufang is the ruler of the capital. Yet he personally led the Imperial Guard to rescue them. This is too inconceivable. The surrounding people immediately recognized the identity of the cavalry that was rushing over. It was the Yu clan's secret army, the Imperial Army. Their strength was even stronger than the Yu clan's army. Thud thud thud. The Imperial Army swiftly arrived outside Qingxin Inn, and whether it was intentional or not, they just happened to block the path of the Yu family army. Yu Wufang, what do you mean? These three people shouldn't be from your Yu clan, right? Why did they come here to interfere? Looking at Yu Wufang and the forbidden army in front of him, Eugene's face was extremely gloomy. His eyes were filled with fear. The Yu clan's Imperial Army was even more terrifying than the Yu clan's army. Furthermore, Yu Wufang was a level stronger than him. If Yu Wufang really interfered, then it would be impossible for him to kill Zhuowen's group of three. Yu Wufang, however, shook his head and said calmly, Eugene, I am the monarch of the coastal country. I have the power to stabilize the order of the country. Right now, you're causing trouble in Qingxin Inn with great fanfare. Do you have a problem with me maintaining order? Eugene's eyes narrowed, and his face became even more gloomy. He knew that Yu Wufang was determined to interfere in this matter, and he could not help but frown. Yu Wufang, you can save these three for now, but you can't save them forever. As long as my Yu clan is not destroyed, I, Eugene, will definitely kill these three. Eugene coldly glared at Zhuowen's group of three, and planned to leave Qingxin Inn. He knew that with Yu Wufang there, it was impossible for him to kill Zhuowen's group of three, so he did not plan to stay in Qingxin Inn any longer. You came to Qingxian Inn in such a threatening manner, and after killing people, you want to leave just like that? Aren't you looking down on me too much? Suddenly, a cold voice rang out in the empty space outside Qingxin Inn. Instantly, it attracted the gazes of countless people. When they saw who it was, they were all stunned. The person who spoke was none other than Yu Jin's target for coming to Qingxin in Zhuowen. Has this fellow gone mad? Yu Jin is finally going to leave. And this fellow still thinks he doesn't have enough problems? Beside Yu Wufang, Yu Chen frowned slightly as she spoke in a slightly angry voice. Yu Wufang could not help but frown as well. Just what was going on with Zhuowen? He had finally sent Yu Jin away with great difficulty. But this person actually wanted to provoke Yu Jin again. His actions were clearly looking down on him. Yu Jin's eyes narrowed slightly. He turned his head and coldly stared at the slender youth at the center of the empty space. He said coldly, "Do you really want to die?" Yu Wufang's frown grew deeper and deeper. His gaze gathered on Zhuowen as he said in a slightly displeased manner, "Little brother, give me some face and let this matter go. After all, the Yu clan is not to be trifled with. If you offend them, it won't do you any good. Give you face. Do you think I can't see through your little tricks? You probably want to use this opportunity to recruit the three of us, right? Unfortunately, even if you didn't come today, the Yu clan army would still be destroyed. So whether you come or not doesn't have the slightest effect on the development of this matter. Moreover, how much face can an early-stage Emperor Realm cultivator like you have?" As he slowly walked towards Yu Jin, Zhuowen's indifferent voice rang out. Arriving beside Yu Wufang, Zhuowen glanced indifferently at Yu Wufang, before directly passing by him, and walking towards Yu Jin. Whether it was Yu Wufang or Yu Jin, Zhuowen did not place them in his eyes. This was because Yu Wufang was only an early-stage Emperor Realm cultivator, while Yu Jin was a peak-stage Emperor Realm cultivator. The two of them posed no threat to him at all. What Zhuowen was worried about right now was the terrifying cultivators hidden in the shadows that had been attracted by the Yu clan army. Zhuowen knew that the many other participants hidden in the capital had already arrived around the Pure Heart, and because of the Yu clan army. Originally, Zhuowen did not want to reveal his identity so early. This was because he knew that the only remaining geniuses from Muqing County and Haibian were him, Luo Xing, and Qing Lian. This was because the imprint on his palm would definitely react if someone from the same county was nearby. However, there was no reaction right now, so there were no geniuses from Muqing County and Haibian. They had probably been randomly assigned to the other two counties. This was the reason why Zhuowen had been so cautious and careful after entering the capital. He did not dare to make a scene, as he was afraid that the geniuses from the other counties would band together to deal with the three of them. However, it was all too late now. Because of Yu Jin's Yu clan army, Zhuowen's whereabouts had been completely exposed to the other geniuses of the capital. With Zhuowen's sharp senses, he could clearly sense that almost 100 participants had already gathered within 10 kilometers of the Pure Heart Inn. Moreover, this number was constantly increasing. Even though Zhuowen appeared to be extremely calm on the surface, his heart was already filled with monstrous rage. Yu Jin's actions had completely exposed his position, causing him to fall into a situation where he was attacked from both sides. Thus, Yu Jin deserved death. Yu Wufang's expression became even more gloomy. Zhuowen's words were extremely impolite, and did not care about his face at all. This caused a trace of anger to rise in Yu Wufang's heart. "How can you be like this? My father has personally come out to help you out. Why don't you have the slightest bit of gratitude? Instead, you're mocking and ridiculing him." Yu Chen could not bear to watch any longer and shouted, "Help me out. What can this trash do to me? Your father is nothing more than trash in my eyes. He actually dares to display his slight skill in front of an expert. He thinks he's doing me a great favor. How laughable." Zhuowen pointed at Yu Jin on the horse, his face filled with mockery. This attitude immediately caused Yu Jin's eyes to narrow as his killing intent boiled. Yu Chen still wanted to say something, but she was pulled back by Yu Wufang. At this moment, Yu Wufang's expression was terrifyingly calm, as he indifferently stared at Zhuowen. "Looks like little brother has a card up his sleeve. We've helped you instead." As he spoke, Yu Wufang waved his sleeve. The forbidden army in front of him neatly opened up a path, allowing Zhuowen to pass unimpeded towards Yu Jin's Yu family army. Yu Wufang wanted to see just what qualifications this youth had to be so arrogant, to not even put him, the ruler of the border sea country, in his eyes. Because of an idiot like you, the three of us have been exposed. Therefore, you must die today. As soon as the path opened up, Zhuowen waved his right hand. A bone spear shining with a cold light appeared in his palm. Traces of killing intent surged out of Zhuowen's body. Zhuowen's words confused Eugene, but he didn't pay much attention to it. He had long since wanted to kill this Zhuowen. If it weren't for his relationship with Yu Wufang, he wouldn't have waited until now. Now that this youth had foolishly offended Yu Wufang, it was the perfect opportunity for him to kill him. Surround this little bastard. I'll slowly torture him to death. Eugene revealed a cruel smile as he coldly chuckled. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The remaining Yu family army rode their horses and surrounded Zhuowen. Their eyes, which were not covered by their masks, were filled with cold killing intent. You're just sending yourself to death. Zhuowen took a step forward and activated the lightning snake wings. His entire body turned into an ethereal lightning and instantly disappeared. In an instant, the surrounding space flashed with countless cold lights. Rumble! Lightning flashed, revealing Zhuowen's figure. At this moment, Zhuowen casually walked out of the encirclement of the Yu family army and walked towards Eugene. Pucci! Dozens of pillars of blood shot into the sky. The Yu family army that had surrounded them all had their heads raised to the sky at this moment. A terrifying bloody wound appeared on their necks, and blood gushed out like a fountain. Plop! Plop! Without a sound, dozens of soldiers of the Yu clan were killed in an instant, turning into cold corpses without any signs of life. Old dog, it's your turn now. Chapter 687. 8 Chong Fist 70 members of the Yu clan army had died in a single exchange. Zhuowen's spear was too fast, so fast that no one in the surroundings could see it clearly. What a fast spear! Yu Wufang frowned slightly as a trace of shock appeared in his eyes. Zhuowen's spear was too fast. Even he couldn't see it. How could he not be shocked? At this moment Eugene, who was seated on a large horse, was similarly shocked. He was also unable to capture the spear light that Zhuowen had unleashed earlier. The speed of the spear light was too fast, so fast that it was dazzling to the eye. Thump! Zhuowen stood 10 meters away from Eugene. He raised his right hand and pointed the bone spear that glowed with cold light at Eugene. Zhuowen said indifferently, Now I'll give you 2 choices. Cripple your cultivation, and I'll spare your dog life. Resist and you'll die. Remember, you only have one chance to choose. All the cultivators in the surroundings burst into an uproar when they heard Zhuowen's words. Zhuowen was just too arrogant. He actually dared to say that he would give the ancestor of the Yu clan, Eugene, a choice. His tone was extraordinarily arrogant. Eugene's eyes narrowed slightly. He could faintly sense that the young man before him was not simple at all. He could tell that Zhuowen was not simple from the spear light that had been as fast as lightning. However, Eugene was the ancestor of the Yu clan, and a veteran Ultimate Emperor realm expert of the capital. How could he really cripple his own cultivation, just because of a single sentence from Zhuowen? You're quite strong at such a young age. Unfortunately, your tone is just too arrogant. Today, I'll let you know what a true expert is. Eugene snorted coldly. He stomped his foot on the horse's belly, and a powerful force actually blasted the horse into a bloody mist. Eugene soared into the air like a bird. A terrifying aura surged out from him, causing his hair and beard to dance in the wind. Eugene has made his move. I'm afraid this young man is in for a bad time. Eugene rose into the air. Many of the cultivators around him looked on with anticipation. They had not yet reached the Ultimate Emperor realm. Although Zhuowen's spear light had been extremely fast, they did not find it particularly stunning. They were not perceptive enough and still believed that Eugene was stronger than Zhuowen. A punch! High in the sky, Eugene suddenly roared out. He clenched his hand into a fist and threw it downwards. The terrifying pressure formed an extremely terrifying gale below. 8 huge yellow fist prints, each dozens of feet long, descended from the void and crushed down on Zhuowen. Countless streams of air flowed in reverse, forming a ring-shaped inverted waterfall. It looked extremely spectacular and terrifying. Eugene's strongest move, the 8-rush fist. I really didn't expect Eugene to use his strongest move right from the start. Is this young man really that strong? The surrounding cultivators all frowned slightly when they saw the 8 terrifying fist prints in the sky. They felt that Yu Jin's strongest move was a little unnecessary. However, Yu Wufang did not think so. At this moment he was staring fixedly at Zhuowen. He could sense more and more just how strange and powerful this young man was. He was definitely not simple. Zhuowen's knees were slightly bent as he faced the 8 fist prints descending from the sky. His handsome face was filled with boundless calmness. Even the sky-collapsing fist prints were unable to make him change his expression at all. When the 8 fist prints were only 10 meters away from Zhuowen, Zhuowen moved. With a shake of his right hand, the bone spear shot out in a simple and unadorned manner. It actually split into 8-inch-long streaks of cold light. The streaks of light were extremely inconspicuous. Clang! The sound of metal clashing suddenly rang out. The instant the 8 streaks of cold light collided with the 8 fist prints, the fist prints that were descending like a hot knife through butter came to a complete halt. Shatter! Zhuowen stomped his foot, and his indifferent voice sounded out slowly. After that, everyone in the surroundings noticed to their astonishment that the terrifying and enormous 8 fist imprints were like the most fragile glass, and they shattered inch by inch and transformed into countless pieces of powder. Yu Jin's strongest move, the 8-rush fist, had actually become so weak before Zhuowen. Zhuowen had not even used any moves. He had only sent out 8 streaks of cold light, and Yu Jin's 8-rush fist had been shattered just like that. As long as one was not an idiot, they would know just how great the gap between Yu Jin and this young man was. High up in the sky, Yu Jin's expression was extremely ugly. His heart was like a raging storm, unable to calm down. Even now, he was unable to imagine that his 8-rush fist would be shattered just like that, and so completely at that. Swoosh! A sharp sound of breaking air suddenly rushed over from below. The mysterious young man below had unknowingly arrived in front of him with the bone spear in his hand. Old dog, your actions have proven that you chose the second option, so you can die now. Zhuowen's indifferent voice rang out. The bone spear in his hand spun, turning into a sharp blur as it shot towards Yu Jin's heart. Ah, it won't be that easy to kill me. Yu Jin was both shocked and furious. The strength of the young man before him had far exceeded his expectations. With a loud cry, he took out a slightly damaged ancient mirror from his bosom. The ancient mirror had an extremely strange appearance. There was actually a bird carved on the edge of the mirror. Zhuowen keenly discovered that the bird on the edge of the mirror was extremely similar to a phoenix. Boom! Yu Jin pressed the thumb of his right hand on the ancient mirror. Immediately, endless golden flames surged out from the damaged mirror. The terrifying golden flames wrapped around Yu Jin, forming an extremely thick armor of fire. The Scarlet Sun Everlasting Mirror. Yu Jin has even used something like this. Looking at the ancient mirror in Yu Jin's hand, Yu Wufang's pupils shrank. Although he was stronger than Yu Jin, he still didn't dare to offend Yu Jin too much. The main reason was because of the Scarlet Sun Everlasting Mirror in Yu Jin's hand. This mirror was something that the ancestor of the Yu clan had accidentally obtained from the Heart of Darkness. Although it was extremely damaged, when Yuan power was used to activate the ancient mirror, it would still release a terrifying golden flame. The golden flame would wrap around the user's body, turning into a strange armor of fire. The golden flame was tougher than all steel. Even though Yu Wufang was stronger than Yu Jin, he couldn't do anything to Yu Jin. The armor's defense was too strong. It was because of the Scarlet Sun Everlasting Mirror that Yu Jin didn't fear Yu Wufang at all. Therefore, although the Yu clan's foundation was slightly lower than the Yu clan's, they were even more arrogant than the Yu clan in the capital. The main reason was because Yu Jin had the Scarlet Sun Everlasting Mirror. Whoosh! The bone spear arrived in an instant, slamming into Yu Jin's armor of fire. A terrifying power exploded. Instantly, countless golden flames burst out. Under the recoil, Yu Jin retreated step by step, only stopping after dozens of steps. However, he wasn't injured at all. What a strange golden flame. Looking at the uninjured Yu Jin, Zhuowen's eyes narrowed. He stared at the Scarlet Sun Everlasting Mirror in Yu Jin's hand with surprise. Just now, He clearly saw that when his bone spear hit the armor of fire, the terrifying power broke through a lot of the golden flames. However, even more golden flames surged out from the Scarlet Sun, everlasting mirror, replenishing the lost golden flames and maintaining the armor of fire. What made Zhuowen even more surprised was that the armor of fire was extremely strange. It could actually offset all the recoil. With Zhuowen's current strength, even if the bone spear touched Eugene indirectly, just the recoil from the terrifying power was enough to cause Eugene's body to collapse. However, Eugene was standing dozens of meters away. Looking at his ruddy complexion, he wasn't affected at all. Haha, with the Scarlet Sun everlasting mirror in hand, what's the use of being strong? You are unable to hurt me at all. Eugene exhaled softly before he laughed out loud. Scarlet Sun everlasting mirror? That's a rather magical treasure. However, even with this thing, you old dog, Eugene will still die. Zhuowen was expressionless. He took a step and instantly arrived in front of Eugene. With a shake of his right hand, the bone spear shot out again. A terrifying and mysterious power of concept exploded in the void. Zhuowen didn't hold back anymore. He directly used his best spear intent. Although the Scarlet Sun everlasting mirror was magical, Eugene was too weak. He couldn't unleash much of its power. As long as Zhuowen unleashed a power that exceeded the limits of the Scarlet Sun everlasting mirror, the armor of fire on Eugene's body would collapse. Hehe. The Scarlet Sun everlasting mirror isn't that easy to break. So what if you're stronger than me? I think you should give up as soon as possible. It's all in vain. Eugene shook his head. The mocking smile on his face became more intense. He was extremely confident in the defense of the Scarlet Sun everlasting mirror. Zhuowen was strong, but his Scarlet Sun everlasting mirror was even more terrifying. Looks like you're very confident. Zhuowen snorted coldly. The bone spear that was ready to strike struck out again. In an instant, Zhuowen's black hair fluttered. With him as the center, countless layers of blue spear shadows appeared on the surface of the bone spear. The countless spear shadows were like tadpoles in a stream. They swam around randomly in the void. Then Zhuowen waved his bone spear. The densely packed blue spear shadows immediately condensed on a single point. Finally, they converged into a terrifying giant blue spear that was hundreds of feet long. Suddenly, the void around the giant blue spear seemed to collapse. Countless shattered black holes appeared. What a terrifying attack. Everyone below was stunned. Although their strength was weak, it did not mean that they were stupid. They could clearly feel how terrifying the giant blue spear that was condensed from Zhuowen's spear intent in the void was. Yu Wufang's expression finally changed. That giant blue spear gave him a feeling that he couldn't resist. He knew that if he were to face that giant blue spear, he would probably die. Who is this kid? How can he be so strong? Yu Wufang could no longer remain calm. Zhuowen's strength had already exceeded his expectations. No wonder Zhuowen's attitude towards him was so cold at the beginning. It turned out that Zhuowen didn't put him in his eyes at all. There was no need for him to put him in his eyes. Roaming dragon toss heaven and earth break. Lone spear 9 link countries end. Ruthless 100 world weapons. Cold condense origin pit of 10,000. Chapter 688. Being surrounded rumble. Countless terrifying ear-piercing explosions resounded continuously in the entire void. Wherever the huge blue spear passed, the entire space would shatter into countless fragments. This spear was extremely terrifying. Eugene's expression changed. The huge blue spear that shot straight towards him actually gave him a suffocating feeling of oppression. It was as if he would definitely die if he was struck by it. The Scarlet Sun everlasting mirror's defense is invincible. It's impossible for this fellow to break through it. Eugene's eyes flickered. He still believed in the Scarlet Sun everlasting mirror's defense. Although the incoming blue spear was indeed terrifying, Eugene believed in the Scarlet Sun everlasting mirror more. Swoosh! A terrifying sonic boom resounded in the sky. The blue spear arrived in an instant and blasted the golden flame armor on Eugene's body. Block it! Eugene roared as the veins on his forehead bulged. He pointed his right thumb at the Scarlet Sun everlasting mirror again. Instantly, Terrifying golden flames burst out from the Scarlet Sun, everlasting mirror. The terrifying golden flames surrounded Eugene and transformed into a flaming phoenix with its wings spread wide. The phoenix spread its wings in the wind and protected Eugene from the oncoming blue spear. Boom! Boom! The terrifying blue spear shadow and the blazing fiery phoenix finally collided. Countless rays of light scattered in all directions. For a moment, the entire sky was occupied by blue and fiery colors. It was as dazzling as day. Phoenix's shadow? Zhuowen's eyes flickered as he looked at the blazing phoenix. The Scarlet Sun, everlasting mirror, was indeed related to the ancient divine beast, the phoenix. Moreover, Zhuowen had a drop of phoenix blood essence. He wondered if there would be any changes when the two were combined. I must obtain the Scarlet Sun everlasting mirror. Zhuowen had a premonition that this Scarlet Sun everlasting mirror was definitely not simple. Therefore he had to obtain such an item. Coupled with the fact that he still had a drop of phoenix blood essence in his possession, this Scarlet Sun everlasting mirror would probably be able to display an extremely powerful strength in his hands. Zhuowen stamped his foot in the air as he thought of this. Then, his entire body shot out like an arrow and arrived in front of the phoenix's virtual shadow in the sky. Then he swung the bone spear in his right hand. Suddenly, the huge blue spear shadow in the void became several times bigger. Terrifying pressure poured down, causing the surrounding void to collapse. Bang! The phoenix phantom let out a sorrowful cry. Under the effect of the blue spear shadow, it turned into countless sparks. It was as if fireworks had exploded in the void at this moment. It was extremely dazzling. Whoosh! The bone spear pierced through Eugene's chest. The sound of metal piercing through flesh could be heard as the bone spear pierced through Eugene's chest. Blood gushed out from the wound. Poochie! Eugene suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. He lowered his head to look at the bone spear that had pierced through him, and his eyes were filled with shock. He never imagined that the Crimson Sun everlasting mirror that he'd always relied on would actually be destroyed just like that. Why? How did you break through the defense of the Scarlet Sun everlasting mirror? Eugene raised his head and stared fixedly at the indifferent young man in front of him. He almost roared out. The destruction of the Scarlet Sun everlasting mirror had caused Eugene's heart to turn to ash. No matter how tough the defense is, once it receives an attack that surpasses its limits, it will shatter into pieces. The defense of your Scarlet Sun everlasting mirror is not an invincible existence. Zhuowen's gaze was cold as his indifferent voice slowly sounded. He flicked his right hand, and the bone spear immediately pierced through Eugene's body. Blood splattered everywhere. Bang! Eugene's corpse suddenly fell from the sky like a catkin in the wind. It directly smashed into the ground. His face was ferocious, and he died with his eyes wide open. The surrounding people were all quiet out of fear as they looked at the corpse that had smashed onto the ground. Their gazes involuntarily turned over when they discovered that Eugene had indeed died before their eyes. The sound of them inhaling a breath of cold air was heard. Dead? Eugene, who possessed the Scarlet Sun everlasting mirror, actually died? Yu Wufang's face was deathly pale as he took a few steps back. Although Eugene was weaker than him, he possessed a defensive treasure like the Scarlet Sun everlasting mirror. Even he couldn't do anything to him. However, Zhuowen was able to kill Eugene. This meant that Zhuowen's strength was much greater than his. Thinking of Zhuowen's bold words before, Yu Wufang finally understood that Zhuowen wasn't being arrogant. He simply didn't put him and Eugene in his eyes. Yu Chun, who stood beside Yu Wufang, had her beautiful eyes flickering as her heart thumped wildly. She had never imagined that this ordinary-looking young man before her would be so terrifying. Fortunately, she hadn't clashed with him before. Otherwise, even Yu Wufang wouldn't have been able to protect her. In the sky, Zhuowen took a step forward. With a stroke of his right hand, the broken Scarlet Sun everlasting mirror on Eugene's body instantly appeared in his hand. The instant he touched the Scarlet Sun everlasting mirror, Zhuowen keenly discovered that the phoenix essence blood floating in the spirit ring buzzed and actually transmitted a trace of excitement. Looks like this Scarlet Sun everlasting mirror is indeed related to the phoenix essence blood. Zhuowen revealed a pleasantly surprised expression. He bent his finger and put the Scarlet Sun everlasting mirror into the spirit ring. His figure flickered as he instantly arrived beside Qing Lian and Luo Xing. Zhuowen, there are a terrifying number of participants hiding around us. We seem to have been surrounded. Luo Xing's brows furrowed as she spoke. When Zhuowen had killed Eugene, the two women had already faintly sensed that something was amiss in the darkness around them. When they tried to sense it, they were shocked to discover that they had been unknowingly surrounded by so many participants. Zhuowen's expression was also extremely unsightly. In his five senses, the number of participants within 10 miles had doubled again, reaching over 200. Each of them had a terrifying aura. Originally, he was in a good mood from obtaining the Scarlet Sun everlasting mirror, but because of this dense crowd of participants, his mood was completely ruined. This damned Eugene, he completely exposed our whereabouts. This is really bad now. Zhuowen cursed in a low voice. The mark on his palm didn't produce any abnormalities, which meant that among the 200 participants, none of them were geniuses from Muqing County. Standing on the side, Yu Wufang felt a bit strange about the attitude of Zhuowen and the other two. Eugene was clearly dead, so why were the three of them even more nervous? As if they were facing a great enemy? Little brother, I wonder what your name is. Being able to kill Eugene, you probably aren't a nobody. If little brother is willing to join our Yu family, I am willing to give up my position as the ruler of Sea Border Country. How about it? Although Zhuowen and the other two's behavior was a bit strange, when he thought of all the powerful performances of Zhuowen just now, Yu Wufang didn't want to let go of such a powerhouse. He knew that if these three joined, the strength of Sea Border Country would explode, and they would no longer need to fear the other two great countries. Between the ruler's position and the strength of his country, Yu Wufang resolutely chose the latter. Even if he was the ruler of Sea Border Country, the strength of Sea Border Country was too weak. His Sea Border Country would also be in danger, so he might as well exchange it for the strength of his country. Father, how can you do this? You are the only ruler of Sea Border Country. How can you give it up so easily? Yu Chen's pretty face changed greatly. Yu Wufang's decision had shocked her. The surrounding cultivators were also in an uproar, secretly praising Yu Wufang's courage. In order to keep Zhuowen and the other two, he was even willing to give up the ruler's position. This kind of decision was really too bold. Yu Wufang didn't pay attention to Yu Chen beside him. His eyes flashed as he stared at Zhuowen and said, "How about it? If you stay, then the ruler's position of the Sea Border Country is yours." At this moment, all of Zhuowen's attention was focused on the surrounding competitors hidden in the void. He didn't pay attention to Yu Wufang at all. Waving his hand, he coldly said, "I'm not interested in your proposal. Leave immediately, otherwise don't blame me for being impolite." Yu Wufang was stunned, and the surrounding people were also stunned. Yu Wufang had even planned to give up the ruler's position of the Sea Border Country. But this youth in front of them had actually rejected it without any hesitation. This was really too hard to believe. "Did you not hear my condition clearly? I plan to give the ruler's position to you. Are you not the least bit moved?" Yu Wufang asked somewhat unwillingly. "Scram! Don't obstruct me or die." With a stomp of his foot, an extremely terrifying aura burst out. With Zhuowen as the center, it formed a devastating hurricane that swept out. Yu Wufang, the dignified ruler of the coastal country, was actually sent flying by this hurricane. He smashed into the ground more than 10 meters away, creating a huge crater. "Father." Yu Chen's expression changed slightly. She hastily ran over to the crater and helped Yu Wufang up. Her eyes were filled with worry. "How can you do this? My father invited you with good intentions. It's fine if you don't appreciate it, but why did you attack?" Yu Chen shouted at Zhuowen. "I'll give you 3 breaths of time. If you don't scram further away, you'll all die." Zhuowen didn't want to waste words with Yu Chen. He could clearly feel that the surrounding competitors were already getting restless. They were likely going to attack very soon. Yu Wufang and the others were simply obstructing him. Yu Chen angrily said, but was interrupted by Yu Wufang. "Chen let's go." Since he doesn't appreciate it, There's no need for us to stick our warm face to his cold ass. Yu Wufang's face was dark. He had clearly lowered his attitude, but Zhuowen didn't appreciate it at all. No matter how good Yu Wufang's temper was, he couldn't help but be angry. As he spoke, Yu Wufang stood up and left the Clear Heart Inn with the mini Imperial Guards. When Yu Wufang and the others left, the surrounding cultivators also dispersed. However, the fame of Zhuowen and the other two would probably spread throughout the entire capital after tonight. Even the Yu family's ancestor, Eugene, had been killed. This matter was enough to shake the entire capital. Boom, boom, boom. Not long after they left, numerous figures suddenly appeared in the sky above the Clear Heart Inn. These figures were all walking in the air, quietly standing in the air as they looked down like gods. Yu Wufang and the others didn't walk too far before they noticed the strange changes in the sky above the Clear Heart Inn. When he saw the many figures walking in the air above the inn, he couldn't help sucking in a breath of cold air. Chapter 689. Playing the Devil. How can there be so many Ultimate Emperor Realm experts? It's impossible for Seaside Country to have so many Ultimate Emperor Realm experts. Yu Wufang's pupils shrank to the size of needles as he stared at the numerous figures that had appeared in the sky above the inn. His eyes were filled with deep shock. In his field of vision, the number of figures in the sky had already reached over 100. Moreover, Yu Wufang discovered that there were quite a few experts with terrifying auras hidden in the shadows as well. So many Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivators were actually hidden in the capital of Seaside Country. Yu Wufang couldn't imagine it at all. Moreover, he discovered that there were quite a few auras that were even stronger than his. They were at least at the early stage of the Fourth Will Ultimate Emperor Realm. These people are here for the three of them. Yu Wufang's gaze shifted slightly. He could also sense that these cultivators who had suddenly appeared in the sky above the inn seemed to be targeting Zhuowen's group. Yu Wufang felt more and more that Zhuowen's group was mysterious. They definitely weren't simple if they could be surrounded by so many Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivators. Zhuowen raised his head and stared at the close to 200 Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivators in the sky. His gaze turned incomparably cold. Finally, the hidden participants couldn't help but make a move. In the sky, the three figures with the strongest auras stood in front of all the cultivators. They had their hands crossed over their chests as they silently looked down at Zhuowen. Their eyes were filled with ridicule. Zhuowen raised his head and stared at the three figures. His eyes narrowed as he immediately recognized them. They were the number 1 geniuses of Ganming County, South Maple County, and Chuanggui County respectively. Gan Ning, Lu Yifeng, and Xiao Jitian. It was obvious that the surrounding geniuses were from these three counties. From the looks of it, their attitude towards Zhuowen's group wasn't very friendly. Gan Ning, Lu Yifeng, and Xiao Jitian didn't have high rankings on the Green Emperor leaderboard. Among them, Gan Ning was ranked the highest at number 20. The other two were on par with Luo Xing, or even slightly weaker. Zhuowen Qinglian and Luoxing of Muqing County? Gan Ning looked down. Though it was a question, his tone was certain. Gan Ning, Lu Yifeng, and Xiao Jitian. What is the meaning of this? Luo Xing raised her head slightly and shouted coldly. What do you mean? We have been observing the three of you in the dark for a long time. You have been out for so long, but it seems that there are no other companions following you. Hee. Does this mean that in the capital of Bianhai Country, there are only the three of you in Muqing County? Lu Yifeng said in a strange tone. Are you planning to deal with us? Stomping his foot, Zhuowen raised his head and coldly stared at Gan Ning and the other two. His voice rumbled like thunder and resounded through the world. Gan Ning and the other two's expressions changed slightly as they stared at Zhuowen with fear. They had witnessed Zhuowen's powerful performance in Drunken Spring Pavilion. The seemingly harmless young man before them had terrifying power within him. He was far stronger than Lve Tao, and was the undisputed number 1 genius of Muqing County. Though the three were wary of Zhuowen, they had more than 200 people on their side, while Zhuowen only had 3. The difference in numbers was too great. So what if Zhuowen was strong? They had more than enough people to kill Zhuowen alone. Zhuowen, I know you are strong, But there are only 3 of you while we have 200 people. I think you are smart people, right? Hand over the mark on your palm, and we won't make things difficult for you. Gan Ning said coldly and loftily. They had 200 people while Zhuowen only had 3. In Gan Ning's mind, there was no suspense in this battle. Zhuowen and the other 2 would obediently hand over the mark. The thought of eliminating a powerhouse like Zhuowen gave Gan Ning and the other 2 a perverted sense of pleasure. Who do you think you are? You want us to hand over the mark? Zhuowen said mockingly with a smirk. What? You don't want to hand it over? Gan Ning's expression froze as he looked down at Zhuowen with a strange expression. Boom! With a flick of Zhuowen's finger, the demon-suppressing green coffin hidden within his spirit ring was immediately taken out. Shortly after, Zhuowen held the green coffin with both hands. With a sudden movement, the green coffin silently stood before Zhuowen. Now I can tell you the truth. 2 months ago, young Master Liuyun of Lifire County led 50 geniuses in an attempt to kill me. In the end, they were all killed by me. I think you'd better think carefully before making a decision. Otherwise, you'll pay a heavy price when the time comes. After all, we haven't entered the heart of darkness yet. It won't do us any good to fight now. Standing before the green coffin, Zhuowen's eyes were cold as his black hair danced in the wind. What? You killed young Master Liuyun? You eliminated all the geniuses of Lifire County? Gan Ning and the other 2 narrowed their eyes as they stared at Zhuowen in disbelief. Young Master Liuyun was ranked 13th on the Green Emperor board, and he had led 50 geniuses of Lifire County. Not only was he unable to kill Zhuowen, but he was killed instead? Instantly, the 200 people in the air were all bewildered. Even the Lihua prefecture was unable to deal with Zhuowen. It would be even more difficult for them. At that time, they might even lose their lives. Nonsense. Young Master Liuyun is not that easy to deal with. Moreover, he led 50 geniuses of Lifire County. Such a lineup is enough to challenge Wen Ao Shui. Although Zhuowen is strong, he is not that strong. This is a lie that you made up. Gan Ning snorted as he stared at Zhuowen. His eyes were filled with coldness. He did not believe that Zhuowen could kill so many geniuses of Lifire County, including young Master Liuyun. It's up to you to believe it or not. I will only give you one chance. If you retreat now, I, Zhuowen, will not pursue the matter. However, if you don't retreat, I, Zhuowen, will kill you. I will not tolerate it. As he spoke, Zhuowen slapped the green coffin. Instantly, a small crack appeared on the coffin's lid, and a mountain-like pressure leaked out. Zhuowen raised his head, his messy hair fluttering in the wind, and his gaze was cold and indifferent. The 200 people in the sky narrowed their eyes. Zhuowen was too arrogant. They clearly outnumbered Zhuowen, but he still dared to be so arrogant. He even threatened to kill all of them if they did not retreat. However, there were indeed many cultivators who secretly retreated under Zhuowen's imposing aura, revealing timid looks on their faces. Many cultivators had also heard some rumors about Zhuowen, so they subconsciously felt some fear towards Zhuowen. Gan Ning and the other 2 also realized that many of the cultivators behind them had been intimidated by Zhuowen. Gan Ning snorted and said, "This Zhuowen is just bluffing. There are 3 of them and 200 of us. How can they withstand such a great disparity? If anyone dares to retreat, I, Gan Ning, will not spare them. In our county, the 3 of us can influence the distribution of the forces behind you. If you don't want to implicate your family, you'd better obey our orders." When Gan Ning said that, the cultivators who were about to retreat were stunned. Gan Ning's words were ruthless. He had actually used their families to threaten them. It was really ruthless. Bluffing? The corners of Zhuowen's mouth curled up. His eyes were full of sarcasm. Gan Ning had really underestimated him. Gan Ning and the other 2 led a large number of cultivators. However, whether it was in terms of strength or quality, they were far inferior to the Lihua County geniuses, led by young Master Liuyun. What was the use of having so many people? Soon, you will know whether I, Zhuowen, am bluffing or not. After saying that, Zhuowen patted the demon-suppressing green coffin again. The lid of the coffin opened by a third. With Zhuowen as the center, dozens of miles of the coffin turned into a gravitational field. The surrounding ground shattered into countless pieces of gravel. Surrounded by countless floating rocks, Zhuowen looked like a demon or a god in high spirits. Qing Lian and Luo Xing did not interfere. Ever since Zhuowen had slaughtered young master Lai Yun and 50 other geniuses of Lihua County, they knew that Zhuowen's strength was far beyond their imagination. Humph! Acting all mysterious. Let's attack together and kill this Zhuowen. Gan Ning snorted coldly. He immediately followed Lu Yifeng and Xiao Jitian to lead nearly 200 geniuses. Like moths to a flame, they flew towards Zhuowen. The densely packed crowd was like countless falling meteors. They practically blotted out the sky. A terrifying aura spread over the entire capital, causing space to shatter into countless pieces. Rumble! A terrifyingly loud thunder-like noise resounded across the entire capital. Immediately, all the practitioners within the capital were attracted by this frightening commotion. All of them came out to look at the strange phenomenon in the sky above Qing Xinin. When they saw the dense crowd of terrifying experts descending from the sky like moths to a flame, they were all dumbfounded. They had never seen so many Ultimate Emperor Realm experts. These experts were usually only legendary existences, but now they were like locusts that appeared before everyone's eyes. It was too much for the eyes to take in. Those three are finished. The simultaneous attack of 200 Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivators isn't something that 3 people can withstand. Yu Wufang stood in front of the Imperial Army in the distance. When he saw the dense crowd of Ultimate Emperor Realm experts attacking, his face immediately turned ghastly pale. Even as the ruler of the seaside country, he had never seen so many Ultimate Emperor Realm experts. Moreover, so many Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivators were attacking together. This was something that Yu Wufang had never seen or heard of before. Although Zhuo Wen's performance earlier was extremely powerful, with so many experts attacking together, Yu Wufang was truly unable to imagine how Zhuo Wen would be able to survive. He didn't even have the chance to survive. On the empty ground, Zhuo Wen raised his head to look at the countless locust-like figures descending from the sky. His face was as calm as still water. He suddenly clenched his fists and 6 different colored flames immediately surged out once more, circling around his body. Rip! Chapter 690. SS Let's Talk Nicely. Rumble. Suddenly, the temperature around Zhuo Wen rose countless times. The entire space was filled with a blazing heat. The surrounding air seemed to have evaporated, becoming extremely hot. The pressure of the demon-suppressing green coffin was everywhere within 10 miles of Zhuo Wen. Although the pressure was strong, the combined pressure of the 200 people in the air completely blocked it. Therefore, the geniuses of the 3 commanderies were not affected by the pressure of the green coffin. What's going on? Why did the temperature suddenly increase so much? When they were within 10 miles of Zhuo Wen, the geniuses finally felt the heat in the surrounding air. Their faces were filled with shock and uncertainty. Gan Ning narrowed his eyes and shouted coldly, "Don't hesitate. Just take down Zhuo Wen. He's alone, and there are 200 of us. He's no match for us." As soon as Gan Ning said this, the people who had stopped moving once again used their movement techniques and rushed toward Zhuo Wen. In an instant, they were above Zhuo Wen, and countless brilliant attacks were launched. However, when these colorful attacks landed, the heat in Zhuo Wen's body reached its peak. Then, a terrifying 6-colored flame shot up into the sky and swept out with Zhuo Wen as the center. Boom! 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 Countless attacks fell like mud into the sea. They were unable to cause any reaction. All the attacks were blocked by the 6-colored flame that suddenly appeared. 6-colored refining flame open. A chilling roar came from the 6-colored refining flame. Then an endless 6-colored sea of fire spread in all directions. In an instant, the area within 10 miles was filled with a sea of fire. Ah! 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 Instantly, the dozens of people closest to the 6-colored refining flame were engulfed by the terrifying 6-colored sea of fire. They let out horrifying screams and turned into ashes in an instant. Hiss! 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 10 miles away, the other cultivators who had yet to get close gasped when they saw the dozens of people turn into ashes upon contact with the 6-colored sea of fire. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. Those dozens of people were not weak. There were even a few ultimate Emperor Realm cultivators among them. However, they were unable to resist the six-colored refining flame, and were turned into ashes. This was too terrifying. It's not over yet. Within the sea of fire, Zhuowen's clear and melodious voice rang out once again. Faintly discernible, Zhuowen suddenly took a step forward. Countless flames encircled him, and the surrounding sea of fire actually once again spread out in all directions at a terrifying speed. Boom! In an instant, everything within 100 miles was enveloped by the six-colored sea of fire. In an instant, the kingdom of darkness was dyed in a myriad of colors by this bizarre six-colored sea of fire. Countless cultivators were alarmed. One figure after another flew out. Everyone was stunned when they saw the terrifying sea of fire that spread out for 100 miles. This sea of fire was terrifying. It was the first time they had seen such a thing in their lives. The geniuses of the 3 surrounding counties had not expected the six-colored refining flame to expand. Moreover, it had expanded to such a large extent. Therefore, many of the geniuses who did not react in time were all engulfed by the terrifying sea of fire. They were turned into ashes before they could even make a sound. Instantly, more than 150 of the 200 geniuses of the 3 counties were killed in the blink of an eye. Almost 3/4 of the geniuses had died in the six-colored refining flame. It's too terrifying. Zhuowen is too terrifying. We can't defeat him. Let's run. Run. He's a demon who kills without batting an eye. We'll only be sending ourselves to our deaths if we go over. The death of more than 150 of their companions pushed the remaining geniuses to the brink of collapse. They roared at the sky and abandoned the seals on their palms. They did not dare to stay in the peach blossom origin diagram any longer. They were worried that their fate would be the same as their companions. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Instantly, dozens of light pillars descended. The remaining geniuses all lost their will to fight. They abandoned their seals and left the peach blossom origin diagram. Gan Ning, Lu Yifeng, and Xiao Jietian were struggling to fend off the six-colored flames that surged towards them. The 3 of them saw that the people around them had suffered heavy losses. Even the last remaining geniuses had disobeyed their orders and abandoned their imprints. Their expressions were extremely ugly. The hearts of the 3 of them were like surging waves, and they were extremely uneasy. They had never imagined that Zhuowen would actually rely on his own strength to resist the combined attack of 200 of them. Moreover, he had even completely defeated them. Seeing their familiar companions turn into ashes before their eyes, regret finally appeared in the hearts of the 3 of them. Zhuowen was right. With his strength, there was no need for him to bluff. In Zhuowen's eyes, even if they had 200 people, Zhuowen would not even look at them. When they thought of the choice Zhuowen had given them, the regret in their hearts grew even stronger. They did not have to face Zhuowen so early. After all, the heart of darkness was the true battleground. However, they relied on their numbers to vainly attempt to challenge Zhuowen. Originally, they thought that the battle was in the bag. However, the final result was a crushing defeat. They were utterly defeated. Zhuowen is a freak. We are no match for him. Quickly abandon your seals and leave the peach blossom origin diagram. Gan Ning waved his right hand, and a terrifying power surged out, repelling the six-colored flames in front of him. He roared at Lu Yifeng and Xiao Jietian beside him, and prepared to abandon his seals. Lu Yifeng and Xiao Jietian looked at each other and nodded, also preparing to abandon their seals. However, just as the 3 of them were about to move, 3 cold lights shot out and accurately struck their right arms. 3 pillars of blood shot into the sky as 3 severed arms flew into the air. Ah! Gan Ning and the other 2 screamed in agony. They clutched their empty right arms, their faces pale. It was over. With their right arms gone, they couldn't even abandon their seals. Did I let the 3 of you leave? A path suddenly opened up in the terrifying sea of fire. A slender figure walked out, holding a bone spear. His sharp eyes locked onto Gan Ning, and the other 2 like a hawk. Zhuowen, what do you want? You've killed almost all the geniuses in our 3 commanderies. We admit that we're no match for you, so we're willing to give you our marks. Why did you cut off our right arms? Gan Ning roared, his face full of resentment. Splat! Another cold light flashed, and Gan Ning's left arm was severed at the shoulder. Blood gushed out, almost forming a crimson stream at his feet. Gan Ning's eyes widened as he screamed in agony. Did I say you could speak? Zhuowen walked over slowly, waving his bone spear lightly to shake off the blood on its tip. He stopped in front of the three, his eyes calm and cold. Lu Yifeng and Xiao Jietian knelt on the ground, clutching their right arms, trembling. Zhuowen was too ruthless. Gan Ning had only said a few words, but he'd cut off his arm without mercy. Gan Ning's arms were severed, and his chin hung low on the ground. His face twisted in agony. Tears and snot streamed down his face like a broken dam. Zhuowen, what do you want? We've lost so thoroughly. Why won't you let us go? Gan Ning lowered his head and said in a low voice. Gan Ning's heart was dead. Even if he didn't die, he'd be a cripple when he went out. He wasn't afraid of offending Zhuowen at all. Instead, his eyes were filled with venom. Let you go? How laughable. Zhuowen smiled instead, and then he recovered his cold and indifferent expression and continued. I, Zhuowen, am not an unreasonable person. Before the battle, I already said that I, Zhuowen, would not pursue those who retreated, and I, Zhuowen, would kill those who didn't. But in the end, all of you chose not to retreat, so naturally, I chose to kill all of you. I've given you the path, but the choice is yours. Since you've chosen this path of no return, why should I, Zhuowen, let you go? If I, Zhuowen, wasn't strong enough today, would you have let me go? Zhuowen's voice grew louder and colder. Gan Ning and the other two's thoughts were laughable. They bullied Zhuowen because they were strong, but wanted Zhuowen to let them go because they were weak. Gan Ning and the other two fell silent. Zhuowen was right. Zhuowen had already given them a choice at the beginning. If they retreated, they would live. If they didn't, they would die. It was very clear. However, they chose not to retreat. Who could they blame? Zhuowen, you better not kill us. After all, we are the #1 geniuses of Ganming County, South Maple County, and Chuangui County. If you kill us, the 3 counties won't let you go, Gan Ning threatened. Are you threatening me? I've killed Sir Lian. Do you think I'll be afraid of you 3 low-ranked counties? Gan Ning, I have to say, I admire your pig brain. Once you're in hell, you'd better reflect on your stupidity. Zhuowen sneered. He shook his right hand, and the bone spear turned into Gan Ning's neck. A line of blood appeared, and Gan Ning fell to the ground dead, without even a sound. Zhuowen, don't kill us. Let's talk nicely. There's no need to use weapons. As soon as Gan Ning died, Lu Yifeng and Xiao Jietian became even more terrified. Their bodies trembled uncontrollably, and they fell to the ground and begged Zhuowen for mercy. 2 spineless fellows. How can they be so afraid of death? The coldness in Zhuowen's eyes deepened as he watched the 2 cower. The bone spear in his right hand once again drew a cold arc, and 2 streams of blood spurted out. Lu Yifeng and Xiao Jietian followed in Gan Ning's footsteps. Chapter 691. Successful refinement. At this moment, the entire capital of the sea border country had sunk into an extremely strange silence. Regardless of whether it was the many cultivators watching from afar, or Yu Wufang standing in front of the imperial army, they were all stunned in place. Mountains of corpses and rivers of blood covered the empty ground of Pure Heart Inn. It was like hell. Countless corpses were piled up into a small mountain, giving off a desolate feeling. Over 200 Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivators had attacked Zhuowen together. But in the end, Zhuowen had emerged unscathed, while the 200 experts had suffered heavy casualties. They had all been reduced to piles of bones. This scene was too terrifying and too shocking. It caused everyone's pupils to shrink as their eyes were filled with disbelief. Dead? They're all dead? Over 200 Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivators died just like that? Yu Wufang's entire body trembled as he stared fixedly at the empty ground in front of Pure Heart Inn. His face was filled with fear. When his gaze finally gathered on the young man with the bone spear, he could not help but shiver. There were so many experts, and there were even quite a few who were much stronger than him, but they had all been killed by this young man alone. Just who is he? He's too terrifying, too terrifying. Yu Wufang recalled Zhuowen's attitude towards him before, and a bitter smile appeared on his face. No wonder this kid didn't care about him at all. His strength was actually so terrifying. Chun'er, don't offend this person in the future. He's so powerful that he can probably destroy our Yu clan with a wave of his hand. Yu Wufang warned Yu Chun in an extremely serious manner. At this moment, Yu Chen's expression wasn't much better than Yu Wufang's. In fact, she was even more shocked than Yu Wufang. She had never expected that she would be able to pick such a terrifying person at a random location. Aside from shock, Yu Chen also felt fortunate. She was fortunate that Yu Hao had stood up for her. She knew very well that if Yu Hao hadn't come, it was very likely that she would have been the one to clash with Zhuowen. Yu Chen couldn't help but shudder when he recalled the fate of Yu Hao and the Yu clan, as well as the fate of those 200+ terrifying experts. Father, even if you didn't say it, I still wouldn't have offended this person. He's too strong, too domineering. Even 200 Ultimate Emperor Realm experts couldn't kill him, and they were even killed by him. A person like that isn't someone we can afford to offend, Yu Chen said in a self-deprecating manner. Yeah, this person is not someone our Yu clan can afford to offend. However, it is impossible for such a terrifying expert to exist even in the 3 big countries. Where did this person come from? Yu Chen's beautiful eyes flashed as she asked curiously. It's true that such a powerful expert doesn't exist in the 3 great nations, but there's one place where it's possible, and that's the Upper Realm. There are supreme rulers in the Upper Realm. Our world was created by the powerhouses of the Upper Realm. The origins of these mysterious experts can only be clearly explained by the Upper Realm. Yu Wufang replied. Yu Chen's delicate body trembled when she heard this. She had heard many rumors about the Upper Realm. It was said that there were countless terrifying experts in the Upper Realm, and that the territory there was countless times larger than the territory they were currently in. However, the Upper Realm was only a legend. Although Yu Chen knew about this legend, she didn't believe it to be true. However, when she saw the sudden appearance of over 200 Ultimate Emperor Realm experts, and the powerful figure who was fighting a bloody battle alone, she faintly believed that the Upper Realm might really exist. Let's go. This person's goal should be the heart of darkness outside the Duanren Horizon. The Duanren Horizon will open in a month's time, and this person will definitely appear. Yu Wufang took a deep look at Qing Xinin, then left with the group of Imperial Guards. He was very clear that with Zhuowen's current terrifying strength, a mere capital was nothing in his eyes. The only reason this person was still in the capital was because of the heart of darkness. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Countless dragon-shaped imprints gathered above Zhuowen's head like flowing lights. Soon after, they all entered Zhuowen's palm. In an instant, Zhuowen had collected nearly 200 imprints. Adding the imprints from the geniuses of the Lihua Prefecture, the number of imprints on Zhuowen's body would soon reach 300. With so many imprints, it was more than enough for Zhuowen to enter the top 100 of the Azure Emperor rankings. In fact, he might even be ranked at the top. Zhuowen, congratulations. The number of imprints on your body has almost reached 300. This is already 1/6 of the total number of imprints you have. For the remaining period, you don't need to risk your life. As long as you protect yourself, you will be able to smoothly enter the top 100 of the Azure Emperor rankings. Luo Xing and Qing Lian stepped forward, their beautiful eyes staring at the dragon-shaped imprints on Zhuowen's palm. Their eyes were filled with envy. They knew that Zhuowen didn't need to risk his life to collect imprints. He only needed to protect himself. This was undoubtedly much easier than them. Even so, the number of imprints doesn't make much of a difference. As long as I can enter the top 100 of the Azure Emperor rankings, it will be enough. Zhuowen shrugged. With a wave of his right hand, nearly 2/3 of the dragon-shaped imprints flew towards Luo Xing and Qing Lian. Zhuowen, what are you? Luo Xing and Qing Lian's beautiful eyes narrowed as they spoke with slight displeasure. We are all geniuses of Muqing County. To me, there is no difference between 100 imprints and 300 imprints. Anyway, as long as I can enter the top 100, I will be qualified to participate in the Azure Emperor Rankings competition. Zhuowen smiled. He gave the 200 imprints on his palm to Luo Xing and Qing Lian. The three of them had about 100 imprints each. 100 imprints were enough for the three of them to enter the top 100 of the Azure Emperor rankings. Qing Lian and Luo Xing nodded their heads in relief. Zhuowen was right. In the peach blossom origin diagram, the geniuses fought each other to filter out the top 100 martialists. There was no ranking at all. Even if you had the most imprints, you wouldn't be able to rank first on the Azure Emperor rankings. The ranking of the Azure Emperor rankings would be determined by the upcoming Azure Emperor rankings competition. Only real battles could determine the final ranking of the Azure Emperor rankings. Therefore, no matter how many imprints Zhuowen had, it wouldn't be of much use to him. It would be better to give them to Qing Lian and Luo Xing, so that the two of them could also enter the top 100 of the Azure Emperor rankings. This would greatly benefit Muqing County's ranking. We owe you a favor this time, Zhuowen. After receiving the imprints, Luo Xing smiled like a blooming flower. At that moment, nothing could be imagined. Qing Lian's pretty face was also filled with joy. She looked at Zhuowen with eyes full of tenderness. Let's return to Qing Xianan first. Now we just need to wait for the opening of the Duanren border in a month's time. We must go to the Heart of Darkness. There are probably a lot of good things there. Zhuowen's eyes glimmered as he said this. After staying in the capital for 2 months, Zhuowen had a deep understanding of the Heart of Darkness. It was said that there were many rare treasures inside. Moreover, the Heart of Darkness had existed for so long, countless experts had entered to explore it. There were bound to be a lot of good things inside. Zhuowen was in a hurry to increase his strength. How could he let go of such a precious land like the Heart of Darkness? The two women nodded their heads hearing Huang Xiaolong's words. Their beautiful eyes shone brightly. They were also looking forward to the Heart of Darkness. Although part of Pure Heart and had been destroyed by the Yu family army, it was still largely intact. When Zhuowen and the other two entered Pure Heart Inn, the surviving cultivators in the inn all stared at the three of them in awe, automatically opening a path for them. They had seen Zhuowen's terrifying performance just now, and in their hearts, they had already defined Zhuowen as a terrifying expert. Such an expert was not to be trifled with. After greeting Luo Xing and Qing Lian, Zhuowen directly entered his room. Inside the room, Zhuowen looked around and found that there were no traces of others spying on him. With a flick of his finger, he took out a broken ancient mirror from his spirit ring. On the edge of the ancient mirror, there were carvings of a phoenix. This was the Scarlet Sun Everlasting Mirror that he had taken from Eugene. This Scarlet Sun Everlasting Mirror can summon the phoenix's shadow, which is enough to prove that this mirror is inseparable from the phoenix. Especially the golden flame released by the mirror. Its defensive power is extremely heaven-defying. He thought back to how Eugene had managed to block his full-powered strike with the Scarlet Sun Everlasting Mirror's power as a three-wheel ultimate emperor. Moreover, Eugene had emerged unscathed. If Zhuowen had not used an extremely terrifying spear intent attack in the end, he probably would not have been able to do anything to Eugene. Moreover, Zhuowen had discovered that Eugene was too weak. He had not been able to unleash the Scarlet Sun Everlasting Mirror's full power. If he had been able to unleash its full power, Zhuowen probably would not have been able to break through it even with spear intent. Let's see if I can refine this Scarlet Sun Everlasting Mirror. Zhuowen's eyes flickered as he pointed his finger forward. A drop of blood flowed out from the tip of his finger and dripped onto the broken ancient mirror. Zhuowen was pleasantly surprised to discover that his drop of blood had been completely devoured by the ancient mirror. Soon after, he could clearly sense that the ancient mirror had a blood affinity with him. I've refined it, Zhuowen called out in delight. He had never thought that refining the Scarlet Sun Everlasting Mirror would be so easy. No wonder the weak Eugene could possess it so easily. It seemed like this was the main reason. Hiss! A thought passed through Zhuowen's mind. Immediately, surging and terrifying golden flames erupted from within the broken ancient mirror. The moment these golden flames appeared, they were like maggots that latched onto Zhuowen's body and formed a golden flame armor on his body, causing Zhuowen to look extremely majestic. The golden flame's armor was quite powerful indeed. According to Zhuowen's estimates, The Golden Flame's armor was probably able to block the full-powered strike of an early 7-wheel Ultimate Emperor. However, it would probably be a little difficult for a mid-7-wheel Ultimate Emperor or higher. I wonder what will happen when the Phoenix Essence blood fuses with the Scarlet Sun Everlasting Mirror. Zhuowen withdrew the Golden Flames and withdrew the drop of Phoenix Essence blood he had refined from the Firebird's feather. Chapter 692. Golden Phoenix Flame. There's indeed a reaction. Zhuowen's eyes flickered as he felt the excited buzzing of the Scarlet Sun Everlasting Mirror. With a flick of his finger, the Phoenix blood essence floating in front of him turned into a ray of light and shot into the Scarlet Sun Everlasting Mirror. Swoosh! The moment the Phoenix blood essence entered the Scarlet Sun Everlasting Mirror, an extremely dazzling and terrifying light instantly burst out. In an instant, the room was filled with blazing golden light. A clear and melodious cry rang out from within the Scarlet Sun Everlasting Mirror. After that, the gigantic image of a flaming phoenix suddenly swept out and circled above Zhuowen. The temperature of the entire room also reached an extremely terrifying level, as if it was a furnace. Boom! Boom! Waves of terrifying golden flames gushed out from the Crimson Sun Everlasting Mirror, transforming into numerous gigantic pillars of fire in the entire room. The illusory figure of the phoenix let out a cry once again, and actually swooped down from within the numerous pillars of fire, sweeping towards Zhuowen. This action of the phoenix silhouette immediately frightened Zhuowen, causing him to involuntarily retreat. His face revealed a frightened expression. However, the terrifying pressure emitted by the phoenix silhouette caused Zhuowen to be unable to move. What a terrifying pressure! Zhuowen, who was unable to move, could only watch with his eyes wide open as the fiery red phoenix shadow approached him. In the end, it completely smashed into Zhuowen's chest. Zhuowen only felt that his entire body was unbearably hot. The terrifying temperature seemed to be able to shatter his body, causing Zhuowen to involuntarily let out a low roar. At the same time, a drop of golden blood shot out from the Scarlet Sun Everlasting Mirror. It was the Phoenix blood essence that Zhuowen had taken out earlier. This drop of Phoenix blood essence was even more dazzling than before. With a swoosh, it flew towards Zhuowen's forehead and instantly entered the depths of Zhuowen's forehead. Rumble! Zhuowen only felt a rumbling sound in his head. It was as if there were tens of thousands of thunderbolts in his head. An extreme pain spread throughout Zhuowen's nerves, causing Zhuowen to roar and faint. The instant Zhuowen fainted, the phoenix shadow finally completely entered Zhuowen's body. In an instant, all the pillars of fire in the room disappeared, and everything returned to normal. Zhuowen quietly laid on the ground in the middle of the room. Unknowingly, an image of a phoenix spreading its wings had appeared on his bare back. It was vivid and lifelike, as if it was a real phoenix. As for the drop of phoenix blood essence that had drilled into Zhuowen's forehead, under the control of the phoenix pattern, it actually completely fused into Zhuowen's bloodline. For a moment, a dazzling golden light appeared on Zhuowen's body. If Zhuowen were to wake up now, he would definitely discover that his great son Nirvana had directly broken through to the second level of annihilation with the assistance of the Phoenix blood essence. His physical strength had reached a higher level. In the next room, Luo Xing and Qing Lian also heard Zhuowen's roar. The two women looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. They could hear the pain contained in Zhuowen's roar. What's going on? What happened to Zhuowen? Qing Lian asked worriedly. Let's go and take a look. Luo Xing's expression darkened as she said decisively. After speaking, the two women walked out of the room together and walked towards Zhuowen's room. Luo Xing knocked on the door a few times and found that there was no movement inside. She couldn't help but frown as a trace of worry appeared in her eyes. Let's go in and take a look. As she spoke, Luo Xing's jade-like hand touched the door and immediately forced it open. The two women stepped into the room and immediately saw Zhuowen lying in the middle of the room unconscious. Zhuowen! Luo Xing and Qing Lian's expressions changed drastically when they saw Zhuowen lying on the ground unconscious. They hurriedly came to Zhuowen's side. Luo Xing even extended her jade-like hand and helped Zhuan up. However, when Luo Xing supported Zhuan, she discovered that Zhuan's upper body was naked. His strong skin was completely displayed in front of her eyes. This immediately caused Luo Xing's cheeks to blush as a strange expression appeared in her beautiful eyes. Senior sister Luo Xing, don't worry about the propriety between men and women right now. Quickly help Zhuan onto the bed. Qing Lian also saw Luo Xing's expression and hurriedly said. It was fine if Qing Lian didn't say anything. Now that she said it, Luo Xing's cheeks became even redder. Especially when she came into contact with Zhuan's boiling hot body. Luo Xing's delicate body actually trembled slightly, as her heart pounded wildly. However, Luo Xing wasn't an ordinary person after all. Although she was extremely embarrassed about this matter, she still pretended to be calm, and helped Zhuan up. Qing Lian also came to help, and helped Zhuan onto the bed. Senior sister, what do you think happened to Zhuan? Why did he suddenly faint? Qing Lian said somewhat worriedly. Luo Xing shook her head and said with some doubt. Zhuan is so strong. It shouldn't be possible for someone else to knock him out. Perhaps he made a mistake in his cultivation. The two women discussed for a while, and both of them attributed the reason to a mistake in cultivation. Although they were quite worried about Zhuan, the two women didn't have any other good ideas. They could only silently wait for Zhuan to wake up. Time passed day by day, and in the blink of an eye, 1 month had passed. Zhuan had been lying on the bed for a whole month, but he was still unconscious. However, Luo Xing and Qing Lian noticed that as time passed, Zhuan's body was constantly emitting a dazzling golden light. Early in the morning, when the first ray of sunlight shone down, Luo Xing and Qing Lian stood inside Zhuan's room. Their beautiful eyes stared at the figure lying on the bed, and their faces were filled with anxiety. 1 month had passed, and today was the opening day of the Duanren Horizon. If they missed this day, they would have to wait for half a year before they could re-enter the Duanren Horizon. However, the time limit for them to stay in the Peach Blossom origin diagram was almost up. They couldn't wait for the second opening of the Duanren Horizon. If they missed this opportunity, they would have no chance to enter the Heart of Darkness. Why hasn't Zhuan woken up yet? If we miss today, we won't have another chance to enter the Heart of Darkness. Luo Xing said anxiously. The expression on Qing Lian's face wasn't any better. She was also anxious. She didn't expect that at such an important time, Zhuan would actually fall into a coma. Their luck was really bad. Boom. While the two women were anxiously pacing back and forth, the temperature in the room rose to a terrifying degree. In the next moment Zhuan, who was lying on the bed, was wrapped in a ball of golden flames. What a terrifying golden flame. Isn't this the golden flame inside Yujin's Scarlet Sun everlasting mirror? Under the sudden attack of the temperature, the two women staggered back. Their faces were filled with fear. They immediately recognized the golden flame that suddenly enveloped Zhuan. Under the blazing golden flames, Zhuan, who was originally lying down without moving, suddenly moved. Immediately he slowly sat up. His eyes were filled with bewilderment. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. With a strange sound, the golden flame around Zhuan suddenly dispersed. The phoenix pattern on Zhuan's back flickered a few times and gradually dimmed. An extremely terrifying aura burst out from Zhuan's body. For a moment, an endless hurricane swept through the room. Qing Lian and Luo Xing staggered back under this aura. Their faces were filled with fear. Zhuan's aura has strengthened again. Has he broken through to the peak of the six-wheel emperor stage? The two women's faces were filled with shock as they looked at the imposing figure. It had only been a few months, but the young man before them had broken through again. This speed was a little too fast. At this moment, Zhuan also noticed the abnormality in his body. After he confirmed it, he was shocked to discover that he had broken through unknowingly. Ever since he suddenly fainted under the attack of the phoenix silhouette a month ago, he had always been in a muddle-headed state. After waking up today, his cultivation had actually risen by a minor level. This naturally caused Zhuan to be pleasantly surprised. Moreover, Zhuan also discovered that his nirvana of the Great Sun had unknowingly broken through to the second level, the Annihilation Realm. At this moment, His physical body was so strong that it could shatter all Earth-rank soul treasures. Any Earth-rank soul treasure that wanted to hurt him was simply wishful thinking. Moreover, the benefits that the Phoenix Shadow brought him were not limited to this. Thinking of this, Zhuowen suddenly stretched out his right palm. At this moment, a small Phoenix Shadow was quietly hovering in Zhuowen's palm. This Phoenix Shadow was formed by golden flames. This golden flame was extremely unique. Its destructive power was extremely weak, but its toughness was extremely terrifying. It was extremely suitable for defense. From now on, I'll call you the Golden Phoenix Flame. Looking at the small golden phoenix in his palm, Zhuowen's lips curled up slightly. He then put away the Golden Phoenix Flame. Although the Golden Phoenix Flame's destructive power was not strong, its defensive power was extremely impressive. Under the effect of the Phoenix Blood Essence, its power seemed to be even stronger than before. Zhuowen's fire fusion art required 9 types of earth fire. Although the Golden Phoenix Flame was not a natural earth fire, its power was not inferior to earth fire. To a certain extent, it was even stronger than earth fire. Therefore, it could be used as the 7th type of earth fire, to fuse with the fire fusion art. Zhuowen, what happened to you? You were unconscious for so long. Inside the room, Luo Xing and Qing Lian sighed in relief when they saw that Zhuowen was fine. Luo Xing couldn't help but ask curiously. When Luo Xing spoke, Zhuowen realized that Luo Xing and Qing Lian were still in the room. He suddenly asked, "How long have I been unconscious?" "A month," Luo Xing said indifferently. "Oh, a month. So today is the day that the Duanren border opens?" Zhuowen's eyes flickered. He was quite shocked that he had been unconscious for a month. Today is the day that the Duanren border opens, but what happened to you a month ago?" Luo Xing asked, unwilling to give up. Zhuowen faintly smiled as he pointed at the Scarlet Sun, everlasting mirror in the corner of the room, which had already become completely dim. He said, "You saw the golden flames that appeared on the surface of my body just now. Back then, an accident occurred while I was refining the Scarlet Sun everlasting mirror. As a result, I fainted." Hearing Zhuowen's explanation, although the 2 women were puzzled, they did not ask. Chapter 693. Duanren Horizon crowds had gathered in the capital of the sea border country. Countless cultivators had arrived from other cities and were entering the capital. The capital was bustling with activity. Today was the opening day of the Duanren Horizon. The Duanren Horizon only opened once every 6 months. Cultivators who wanted to enter the Heart of Darkness only had this one chance every 6 months. The Heart of Darkness was a nightmare for many cultivators. However, it was a treasure in the eyes of some experts. Even if one was in the outskirts of the Heart of Darkness, there was a chance of encountering a rare opportunity. Once a cultivator encountered such an opportunity, it would be something that would benefit them for the rest of their lives. At the edge of the deepest part of the capital, there was a precipitous cliff. In front of this precipitous cliff, there was an incomparably vast open space. In front of the precipitous cliff, there were many broken stone pillars that rose into the sky. This was the Duanren Horizon. The Duanren Horizon was a 10,000 zhang tall cliff. At the bottom of the cliff were sharp stone pillars that pierced the sky. They were like broken blades that emitted a cold light. If a cultivator was careless and fell from the Duanren Horizon, death was certain. Even Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivators were not spared. Even though Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivators could walk on air, the Duanren Horizon was an extremely strange place. There was a terrifying gravitational pull here, so even Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivators couldn't fly for long in the Duanren Horizon. Normally, cultivators wouldn't rashly enter the Duanren Horizon. That was because it was an act of seeking death. However, every 6 months, the terrifying gravity in the Duanren Horizon would drop to its lowest point. It was only at this time that Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivators could truly walk through the air within the Duanren Horizon. Moreover, during this period of time, an enormous stairway to heaven would appear beneath the Duanren Horizon. This stairway would lead directly to the bottom of the Duanren Horizon. This stairway to heaven was naturally specially prepared for cultivators below the Ultimate Emperor Realm, who couldn't walk on air. However, It wasn't that easy to pass through the Duanren horizon. In the void below the Duanren horizon, there was a terrifying number of griffins hidden. Griffins were an extremely ferocious flying meta-beast. Their strength wasn't high. They were roughly at the Earth King realm. However, there were tens of thousands of griffins in the Duanren horizon. With such a terrifying number of griffins, even an ultimate Emperor realm cultivator would be besieged and forced to flee pathetically. They might even die because of this. Although the griffins were terrifying, there was still an endless stream of cultivators who wanted to enter the Duanren horizon. These cultivators who entered the Duanren horizon were mostly those with poor aptitudes and knew they couldn't break through their shackles. Therefore, they wanted to seek opportunities in the Duanren horizon to fight for a chance to survive. Da-da-da. The sound of horses galloping could be heard unceasingly. In front of the open space, a group of soldiers were rushing over. Each and every one of them was riding a large white horse. They were the Imperial Guards of the Yu clan. In front of the Imperial Guards was naturally Yu Wufang. Yu Wufang's silver armor shone brightly in all directions. He appeared majestic and domineering, displaying the domineering aura of a ruler. Numerous cultivators had gathered on the empty ground. When these cultivators saw Yu Wufang leading the Imperial army over, they all revealed looks of awe. The current king of Bianhai country was the #1 expert. Who dared to disrespect him? Who dared not fear him? The Imperial Guards stopped in the open space. Yu Wufang's gaze swept past them and focused on the 5 figures at the front of the group. The auras of these 5 people were much stronger than ordinary cultivators. They were all ultimate Emperor realm cultivators. Moreover, Yu Wufang wasn't unfamiliar with these 5 people. They were the ancestors of 5 of the 15 cities in Bianhai country. They were all old bastards who were about to reach the end of their lifespans. If it weren't for their lifespans, these 5 people wouldn't have taken the risk to enter the heart of darkness. After all, everyone in Bianhai country knew about the dangers of the heart of darkness. Even ultimate Emperor realm cultivators had a high chance of dying inside. The 5 old men raised their heads and looked at Yu Wufang indifferently. They nodded slightly as a form of greeting. They didn't have the slightest intention of greeting Yu Wufang. Yu Wufang didn't get angry because of this. These 5 people weren't weak. They were basically all ultimate Emperor realm cultivators. There was indeed no need for them to give Yu Wufang too much face. After all, they were all ultimate Emperor realm cultivators. There was no need for them to pay attention to these complicated formalities. Yu Wufang frowned slightly when he looked around again. He actually didn't see Zhuowen's group of 3. He originally thought that Zhuowen's group had appeared in the capital because of the Heart of Darkness. Now that the 3 of them were absent for no reason, Yu Wufang became even more puzzled. Your Highness you should open the Duanren border now, right? Although the 5 of us are ultimate Emperor realm cultivators, and are able to walk through the air to reach the bottom, there is still the threat of the lion vulture. So Your Highness you, please hurry up and summon the stairway to heaven. A hoarse voice suddenly rang out, causing the originally noisy space to fall silent. Everyone looked over and saw that the one who had spoken was one of the 5 people standing proudly in front of them. This person had a head full of white hair and wore a light blue cloth robe. At first glance, he looked completely ordinary and looked like an ordinary old farmer. However, this old man's eyes were sharp like an eagle's, making people unable to look straight at him. Everyone immediately recognized this old man. He was the ancestor of Yuanli City, Zhou Lifeng. His strength was extremely terrifying. It was said that he was a mid-ultimate Emperor realm cultivator. He could be considered the strongest of the 5. The other 4 old men weren't weak either. They were basically all early ultimate Emperor realm cultivators. Even Yu Wufang felt a faint pressure when the 5 of them stood there. Although Yu Wufang was stronger than the 5 old men, if the 5 old men worked together, Yu Wufang would be a bit troublesome to deal with. This was also the reason why the 5 old men didn't seem particularly respectful towards Yu Wufang. They didn't fear him at all. The attitude of the 5 old men caused Yu Wufang to frown slightly. He was slightly displeased. He said indifferently, "The opening of the Duanren border will have to be delayed for a while. There are still people who haven't arrived." There are still people who haven't arrived? Your Highness, everyone seems to have arrived. How could there still be people who haven't arrived? Zhou Lifeng frowned and looked around. In this group of people, the only one who had reached the ultimate emperor realm was Yu Wufang other than the 5 old men. As the ruler of the sea border country, it was impossible for Yu Wufang to enter the Duanren border. Now that the 5 old men were all here, how could there still be people who hadn't arrived? Subconsciously, Zhou Lifeng and the 5 old men thought that Yu Wufang was trying to intimidate them. Thinking of this, the 5 old men's faces turned ugly. Your Highness, in the sea border country, who else can make you wait with the status of a ruler? I think that such a person doesn't exist. I'm afraid that Your Highness doesn't want to open the Duanren border, right? Zhou Lifeng said meaningfully. When these words came out, the eyes of everyone in the area narrowed. Their gazes gathered on Yu Wufang, and there was displeasure in their eyes. These cultivators had traveled thousands of miles to gather here. Naturally, it was for the heart of darkness. The meaning behind Zhou Lifeng's words immediately put Yu Wufang in the eye of the storm. Feeling the gazes of the crowd, Yu Wufang frowned. This Zhou Lifeng was becoming more and more impudent. Relying on the support of the other 4 old men, he didn't even put him in his eyes. However, when the frightening figure from last night surfaced in Yu Wufang's mind, the corners of his mouth revealed a mocking expression. If Zhou Lifeng and the other 2 elders knew that the person he was waiting for was that fiend, what would they think? That person isn't someone you can afford to offend. Let me give you a word of advice. It's best to wait. Otherwise, it will be too late for regrets. Yu Wufang said with a faint smile. Haha, truly laughable. Yu Wufang, I think you should open the Duanren border now. Don't force us to make a move. Zhou Lifeng suddenly laughed loudly and said coldly. When these words came out, the countless cultivators in the area started to shout. Their voices were loud, and they had the intention to force Yu Wufang. Feeling the coercion from the crowd, Yu Wufang's face darkened to the extreme. The majority of these cultivators were wandering cultivators without a fixed faction. They were all alone, and they were not afraid of his Yu family. Moreover, this group of people had the support of Zhou Lifeng and the 5 old men. Even if Yu Wufang wanted to make a move, he would have to consider the consequences. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. At this moment, 3 whistling sounds suddenly sounded from the horizon. Following that, 3 figures shot towards the area like arrows leaving the bowstring. In an instant, they arrived not far from Yu Wufang. Among these 3 figures, one was a young man with a slender figure carrying a green coffin on his back. The other 2 were beautiful women. Both of them had looks that could topple cities, and a unique temperament. When the 2 women appeared in the open space, they undoubtedly attracted the gazes of many cultivators in the area. These 2 women were too beautiful, like fairies that had descended to the mortal world. These 3 were naturally Zhuowen, Qinglian, and Luo Xing ever since Zhuowen woke up. The 3 of them had rushed to the Duanren border in a hurry. However, they did not expect that the Duanren border had not opened yet. This made the 3 of them sigh in relief. Zhuowen also noticed the gazes of the surrounding people. When he discovered that these people's gazes were basically ignoring him and converging on Qing Lian and Luo Xing, he could not help but shake his head and smile bitterly. It seemed that the attractiveness of beautiful women was indeed extraordinary. Ever since he had slaughtered all the geniuses in the 3 great counties last night, Zhuowen knew that there were very few geniuses left in the capital. Therefore, Zhuowen did not plan to hide his identity, and once again carried the demon-suppressing green coffin on his back. After all, the power of the blood demon, within the demon-suppressing green coffin, was constantly transmitted to his body. Moreover, it had to be in contact with his body. Therefore, in order to increase his strength, he could only carry it on his back all the time. The 3 of you have finally arrived. Wufang has been waiting here for a long time. If the 3 of you wish to enter the Duanren border, Wufang will open the Duanren border for the 3 of you. Yu Wufang quickly came before Zhuowen and the other 2. His attitude could be said to be extremely respectful, and even his tone had a trace of caution. Chapter 694. Zhou Lifeng Yue Wufang's respectful and even careful attitude caused the surrounding cultivators to be dumbfounded. The majestic ruler of seaside country was actually so respectful and careful towards a young man. This was something no one could imagine. The 5 old men, including Zhou Lifeng, also saw Yu Wufang's respectful attitude. Their gazes involuntarily converged on Zhuo. They knew that the person Yu Wufang had been waiting for should be this person. However, Zhuowen's appearance was unique and the aura on his body was extremely obscure. It was impossible to tell if he was real or fake. However, Zhuowen was really too young. Zhou Lifeng did not believe that this ordinary-looking young man was some kind of expert. However, Yu Wufang's attitude made Zhou Lifeng faintly feel that something was wrong. Maybe this kid's identity is not ordinary, so Yu Wufang is treating him like this. Zhou Lifeng casually found a reason in his heart. He did not put Zhuowen and the other 2 in his eyes. Highness Yu, shouldn't we open the Duanren horizon now? Zhou Lifeng said in a somewhat strange tone. They had already waited here for so long, and had long become impatient. Since the person Yu Wufang was waiting for had come out, they naturally had to urge Yu Wufang to open the Duanren horizon. Hearing Zhou Lifeng's impolite words, Yu Wufang frowned slightly. This Zhou Lifeng was becoming more and more impudent. Now in front of him, his words did not have the slightest bit of fear towards him, the ruler of seaside country. Zhou Lifeng, you should watch your words. I am after all the ruler of seaside country. How can I allow you to be so impudent? Yu Wufang's eyes flashed coldly as he said indifferently. Highness Yu, so you also know that you are the ruler of seaside country. I thought you had forgotten that we are all your people in Bianhai country. But right now, in front of us, you are groveling in front of a brat who smells of milk. I wonder if Highness Yu knew that you were the ruler of Bianhai country at that time? Zhou Lifeng slowly walked out. His gaze first landed on Yu Wufang, then focused on Zhuowen. His tone became several times louder as he mocked. Zhou Lifeng's words were truly vicious. Not only did he viciously crush Yu Wufang's spirit, he even dragged Zhuowen down with him. The dignified monarch of the borderland country was actually bowing and scraping to a stranger like Zhuowen. What would they, the martial artists of the borderland country, think? It was inevitable that there would be some grudges in his heart, and even his attitude towards Zhuowen had become extremely unfriendly. This young man in front of him looked very ordinary. What ability did he have to receive such treatment from Yu Wufang? Feeling the hostility of the surrounding cultivators, Zhuowen raised his eyebrows slightly. His gaze focused on the nearby Zhou Lifeng, who had a sneer on his face. He knew that the old man in front of him was the one who had stirred up this trouble. Do you feel that Yu Wufang's attitude towards me is inappropriate? Then why don't you tell me what kind of attitude Yu Wufang should have towards me? Zhuowen tilted his head and stared at Zhou Lifeng, his eyes filled with indifference. Seeing Zhuowen question him like this, Zhou Lifeng narrowed his eyes, the coldness on his face growing thicker. Perhaps this young man's status wasn't low, but his strength was still lacking. For him to dare make irresponsible remarks in front of him, he really had eaten the guts of a leopard. You are just a brat who stinks of his mother's milk. What qualifications do you have to speak to this old man like this? This old man will give you a chance. Immediately kneel down and lower your head to admit your wrongs. This old man won't bother about your attitude just now, Zhou Lifeng said coldly as he looked down at Zhuowen. As soon as these words came out, the faces of the surrounding martial warriors all revealed meaningful looks of ridicule. Just now, Yu Wufang had been extremely respectful towards this young man. But now, Zhou Lifeng actually wanted this young man to kneel down and apologize. If this young man really did kneel down and apologize, Yu Wufang's face would be completely lost. It could be said that this was a disguised slap to Yu Wufang's face. Zhou Lifeng crossed his arms over his chest, a mocking expression on his face. His goal was to make Yu Wufang look bad. Since this Yu Wufang was so respectful towards this young man, then he would do the exact opposite. So Zhou Lifeng really wanted to see Yu Wufang's expression. But when his gaze finally converged on Yu Wufang's face, he was stunned. The current expression on Yu Wufang's face was completely different from what Zhou Lifeng had imagined. The expression of shock and fury that he had imagined did not appear on Yu Wufang's face. Instead, what he saw was pity and a strange expression. Right, Yu Wufang's current expression was pity and a strange expression. It was as if Zhou Lifeng had done something stupid. Are you putting on an act in front of me? Zhou Lifeng frowned slightly. Yu Wufang's expression caused Zhou Lifeng to feel a bit uneasy. However, he didn't believe this young man had any ability. With his cultivation base, how could he be afraid of a brat who stinks of his mother's milk? Kneel down and apologize to you? The corners of Zhuo Wen's mouth curled slightly as he lifted his head. His eyes were filled with a sinister coldness. Zhuo Wen had never offended this old man before. He did not expect that this old man would choose to offend him. This caused Zhuo Wen to sneer in his heart. Zhou Lifeng frowned slightly and nodded. If you want to live, then kneel down and apologize to me. Who do you think you are? You actually dare to make me kneel down and apologize to you? Is your face even greater than Yu Wufang's? Even Yu Wufang doesn't dare to speak to me like that. How did a stupid pig like you have the guts to raise such a stupid condition? Zhuo Wen shook his head, his voice becoming even colder. This Zhou Lifeng really thought too highly of himself. He didn't even have the slightest bit of brain. Since even Zhuo Wen was speaking so humbly to him, it could only mean that he, Zhuo Wen, wasn't ordinary. But even so, this Zhou Lifeng, in order to rub off on Yu Wufang's spirit, actually wanted to treat him, Zhuo Wen, as a soft persimmon. It was truly laughable. Oh, do you dare to say that again? Little brat. There are some people that a little fellow like you can't afford to provoke. I think you'd better think about the consequences. Zhou Lifeng's eyelids twitched. Zhuo Wen's words had thoroughly infuriated him. The gaze he used to look at Zhuo Wen was filled with coldness. This coldness was like the coldness of winter, extremely penetrating and terrifying. That's right. There are some people that you really can't afford to provoke. Zhuo Wen nodded and said seriously. Good. At such a young age, you actually have such courage. I can't help but admire your courage. It's a pity that sometimes when your courage is too big, it's often the fastest to die. Zhou Lifeng's voice became even more gloomy. His voice was filled with coldness. Zhuo Wen had thoroughly infuriated him. Then don't blame me for being merciless. Humph. As he spoke, Zhou Lifeng stomped his foot, and a terrifying aura burst out. His entire person disappeared from the spot like a shadow. When he reappeared, he was already behind Zhuo Wen. His withered branch-like claws stretched out, and directly smashed towards Zhuo Wen's head. Zhou Lifeng didn't hold back in this attack. If Zhuo Wen was hit, then he would definitely die. Mocking and ridiculing laughter resounded in the surroundings as soon as Zhou Lifeng made his move. Everyone was laughing at Zhuo Wen for overestimating his own strength. He was actually stupid enough to provoke an ultimate Emperor realm expert like Zhou Lifeng. Clang! The sound of metal clashing instantly resounded in the air. Zhou Lifeng's pupils shrank slightly as he discovered that a sliver of golden light had actually appeared on the back of Zhuo Wen's head. The moment his claw landed on the back of Zhuo Wen's head, it was as if he had struck a rock. How is this possible? How can this kid's body be so tough? I'm actually unable to leave a single mark on his body? Zhou Lifeng couldn't help but exclaim in his heart. I've already stood there and allowed you to hit me. Why can't you cause any harm to me? What's the point of leaving a piece of trash like you in this world? Zhuo Wen's cold voice rang out once more. Then he stretched out his right hand and instantly grabbed Zhou Lifeng's claw. His 5 fingers exerted force, causing Zhou Lifeng's right hand to bend irregularly under the powerful force. Ah! A miserable shriek suddenly rang out. Zhou Lifeng clutched his deformed right hand as he stumbled backwards. His eyes were filled with disbelief. How could this young man be so terrifying? His full-strength attack had actually been unable to leave a single mark on his body. Just how tough was the body needed to be to achieve this? Under the effects of the Phoenix Essence blood, Zhuo Wen's nirvana of the Great Sun had already broken through to the next level of destruction. It was enough to destroy all Earth-tier soul treasures. Zhou Lifeng, a mere 3-wheel ultimate Emperor realm expert, was truly unable to cause any harm to Zhuo Wen. Only the blink of an eye had passed from the moment Zhou Lifeng attacked to the moment Zhou Lifeng retreated. Soon after, the surrounding crowd discovered in disbelief that the young man with the green coffin was completely unharmed, but Zhou Lifeng's right arm had been crippled. What's going on? Zhou Lifeng is a mid-stage three-wheel ultimate Emperor realm expert. How could his right arm be crippled in an instant? Is that young man really that terrifying? Everyone in the surroundings was in an uproar. Their gazes towards Zhuowen had changed, becoming filled with disbelief. As expected, this young man was extraordinary. No wonder even Yu Wufang was so respectful towards him. Elder Zhou, are you all right? The other 4 elders all gathered around Zhou Lifeng. When they saw that Zhou Lifeng's right arm had been crippled, they all revealed furious expressions. I'm fine. This kid seems to have an extremely powerful defensive soul treasure on him. I suffered from that earlier. If the 5 of us work together, we'll definitely be able to break through his defensive soul treasure. Zhou Lifeng's eyes were filled with resentment as he gripped his right hand. Although he had vaguely guessed that Zhuowen might be extraordinary, he only thought that Zhuowen might have a powerful defensive soul treasure on him. He didn't believe that Zhuowen's body could be that powerful, nor did he believe that Zhuowen was truly that powerful. As long as the 5 of them worked together, the young man before them would still be dead meat. Elder Zhou is right. Let's work together and get rid of this arrogant brat. The other 4 elders all nodded as they stared at Zhuowen with unfriendly gazes. For terrifying auras erupted from them. They were all ultimate three-wheel emperor auras. Go! Kill this kid! With that, the 5 of them shot out in unison, directly attacking Zhuowen. They were confident that they would be able to kill Zhuowen if they worked together. Are you still lying to yourselves? Since you really want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. Chapter 695. Rainbow Sky Stairway Boom. A terrifying pressure surged out from the bronze coffin. Instantly, an area of 5 kilometers around Zhuowen was enveloped by this pressure that was as heavy as a mountain. The ground of the entire open space faintly showed signs of not being able to withstand the pressure and directly cracked open. Traces of cracks spread out like a spider web. The surrounding warriors directly knelt on the ground under the effect of this pressure, their faces filled with horror. Too terrifying. This pressure that suddenly surged out was too terrifying. The cultivators gathered here were basically all Heavenly King realm experts, but they were actually unable to withstand this pressure and knelt on the ground. The 5 old men led by Zhou Lifeng rushed towards Zhuowen from 5 different directions. However, the instant they came within 10 miles of Zhuowen, under the terrifying pressure, the 5 old men actually fell to the ground like butterflies with broken wings. They were in an extremely sorry state. This pressure was too terrifying. It was so terrifying that the 5 old men couldn't even summon the slightest will to resist. Even the yuan qi in their bodies was completely suppressed by the pressure, making it extremely difficult for them to even move. Old man Zhou, what's going on here? The other 4 old men's gazes converged on Zhou Lifeng, their faces filled with shock and anger. At this moment, Zhou Lifeng's face was incomparably pale. He finally understood why Yu Wufang was so respectful towards this young man, even speaking in a somewhat submissive manner. It turned out that this ordinary young man actually possessed such terrifying strength. Just the pressure he released actually suppressed them to the point where they couldn't use any of their strength. When Yu Wufang treated Zhuowen so respectfully, he, Zhou Lifeng, should have noticed that this child wasn't ordinary. However, he had actually offended such a terrifying figure in order to rub off Yu Wufang's spirit. Sir, just now, this old man had eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai. I hope that sir can spare our lives. With a plop, Zhou Lifeng directly knelt on the ground, his entire body trembling. He actually directly kowtowed to Zhuowen, his attitude extremely humble. Zhou Lifeng's actions immediately stunned the surrounding crowd. They did not expect that the previously insufferably arrogant Zhou Lifeng would actually so straightforwardly kneel and beg for mercy. However, when they felt the terrifying pressure around them, they didn't feel anything wrong. The young man with the green coffin was indeed terrifying. If Zhou Lifeng didn't beg for mercy, he wouldn't be able to survive. Everyone's eyes were on Zhuowen. They wanted to see what kind of attitude this young man would have. Just now you threatened to kill me. Why are you suddenly kneeling and begging for mercy? Zhuowen looked down at Zhou Lifeng and the other 4 old men, who were kneeling on the ground and trembling. His voice became bone-chillingly cold. Zhou Lifeng lowered his head and said in a humble voice, "Just now, this lowly one looked down on you. I only hope that you can spare this lowly one's life." Under this pressure, Zhou Lifeng did not have the courage to resist the young man in front of him. Thinking back to when he attacked Zhuowen, Zhou Lifeng knew that the young man in front of him was far stronger than him. "I can spare your life. As long as the 5 of you cripple your own cultivation, I will let you go." Zhuowen shook his head indifferently. The eyes of all the cultivators in the surroundings shrank when they heard this. Even Yu Wufang's eyes flickered, indicating that he wasn't very calm inside either. This young man was really ruthless. He actually wanted Zhou Lifeng and the others to cripple their own cultivation. These were 5 ultimate Emperor Realm experts. They were usually lofty and respected by everyone. If they crippled their cultivation, they would definitely become completely useless cripples. At that time, they would be like street rats that everyone would want to beat up. Cripple our own cultivation? Zhou Lifeng and the other 4 old men were all shocked as they stared fixedly at Zhuowen. They had cultivated bitterly for many years to reach their current level of cultivation. Today, this person actually wanted them to cripple their own cultivation. How could they possibly do that? Cripple or die. The 5 of you don't have a choice. Either you cripple your own cultivation and keep your lives, or I will personally take your worthless lives. At this point, Zhuowen stomped his foot. His peak ultimate Emperor Realm cultivation surged out and countless blade-like gusts of wind gathered around him. The ground beneath his feet completely collapsed, forming a deep crater that was several feet deep. What a terrifying aura. This kid is indeed powerful. Fortunately, I didn't offend him too much, or the consequences would be dire. Yu Wufang's eyes narrowed. The aura that Zhuowen was emitting was like a towering mountain before him. He could only look up at it. If an expert like this wanted to kill him, it would be as easy as moving a finger. Boom! Zhuowen's aura caused the faces of Zhou Lifeng and the other 4 to turn even paler. The 4 old men kneeling beside Zhou Lifeng revealed ruthless expressions in their eyes as they extended their right palms and suddenly slapped towards their chests. For miserable cries sounded out. The 4 old men had actually decisively crippled their cultivations, becoming completely crippled. After crippling their cultivations, the 4 old men glared at Zhou Lifeng with venomous gazes. All of this was caused by Zhou Lifeng. If it weren't for Zhou Lifeng's instigation, they wouldn't have had to face such a terrifying expert like Zhuowen. Zhuowen nodded in satisfaction. He looked at Zhou Lifeng and said indifferently, "What? Still not going to attack? Do you want me to attack?" As he spoke, Zhuowen took a step forward. A terrifying aura pressed down on Zhou Lifeng, causing his face to turn pale, and he directly spat out a mouthful of blood. "Ah, I can't accept this." Zhou Lifeng roared at the sky. He slammed his palms against his chest and spat out a mouthful of blood. His expression became extremely dispirited. He had been forced by Zhuowen to the point where he could only cripple his own cultivation. 5 experts who could call the wind and summon the rain in their respective cities were actually forced to cripple their own cultivations in front of a young man. From then on, they would become completely useless cripples. Such a scene really shocked the eyes of the surrounding cultivators. Their gazes towards Zhuowen were filled with deep reverence. This kid definitely couldn't be provoked. He was too terrifying, too ruthless. Seeing Zhou Lifeng and the other 4 become crippled in the blink of an eye, Yu Wufang's heart trembled violently. He made up his mind that he definitely couldn't provoke this fiend in front of him. Open the Duanren border. Turning his head, Zhuowen no longer paid attention to Zhou Lifeng and the other 4. His gaze fell on Yu Wufang, his voice indifferent. "I'll open it immediately." Yu Wufang quickly nodded. Taking a step forward, he came to the edge of the cliff and took out a handful of 7-colored soil. This 7-colored soil was extremely strange. It actually constantly flickered with a 7-colored brilliance. Zhuowen looked curiously at the 7-colored soil in Yu Wufang's hand. It seemed like this strange 7-colored soil was related to the Duanren border stairway to heaven. Yu Wufang's right hand formed a series of complicated seals. With a wave of his right hand, the 7-colored soil was scattered. It turned into a rainbow-like arc in the air, and fell to the bottom of the cliff. Rumble. Not long after, the entire cliff shook violently, and to Zhuo Wen's astonishment, below the Duanren border, there was a 7-colored staircase rising from the ground, reaching up to the sky. The top of the staircase was touching the edge of the cliff, perfectly fitting together. This is the 7-colored stairway to heaven. It can lead to the bottom of the Duanren border. However, within the clouds at the bottom of the Duanren border, there are a terrifying number of griffins. So if you want to enter the Duanren border, it's best to be careful. Once the 7-colored stairway to heaven appeared, Yu Wufang lightly breathed out. His gaze fell on the people in the open space, his voice loud and clear. The surrounding people also looked at the 7-colored stairway to heaven with heated gazes, but no one moved. Their gazes were all on Zhuo behind them. With this terrifying young man present, they really didn't dare to climb the 7-colored stairway to heaven in front of him. After all, no one knew this young man's personality. If they rashly went up and angered this young man, the consequences would be unimaginable. Feeling the respectful gazes directed at him, Zhuo couldn't help rubbing his nose. It seemed like his performance just now had intimidated many people. Zhuo, looks like there are many people who are afraid of you now. Luo Xing beside him suddenly teased. Shrugging his shoulders, Zhuo said with a smile, "Let's go. Now that the Duanren border has opened, let's hurry to the heart of darkness. I'm afraid the participants from the other 3 big countries should also be entering the heart of darkness at this moment." Zhuo knew that the opening time of the Duanren border was the same for all 3 big countries. Therefore, when the Bianhai country opened, the other 2 big countries would also open today. When the time came for the participants to rush in, it would definitely be a tough battle. After saying that, Zhuo led Luo Xing and Qing Lian up the 7-colored stairway to heaven. In an instant, they disappeared into the endless clouds at the bottom of the Duanren border. After a few leaps, their figures disappeared. Swoosh, swoosh. After Zhuo and the other 2 left, the warriors in the open space swarmed into the 7-colored stairway to heaven like countless locusts entering the territory. In an instant, the originally bustling open space became deserted. Looking at the empty open space and the Duanren border that was shrouded in clouds, Yu Wufang's eyes flickered. With a loud shout, he led the imperial army away from the Duanren border. He, Yu Wufang, was only responsible for opening the Duanren border today. As for the life and death of the warriors who entered the Duanren border, he did not care and would not care. However, he knew that Zhuo and the other 2 would most likely obtain quite a good harvest after entering the Duanren horizon. However, none of this had anything to do with him. In fact, in his opinion, after sending Zhuo and the other 2 away, he felt relieved. Because Zhuo was too strong enough to destroy their Yu family. Such an expert was destined to not be controlled by their Yu family. Naturally, Yu Wufang would not have the slightest thought of keeping Zhuo, because to their Yu family, and even the capital, Zhuo was like a bomb that could explode at any time, uncontrollable. In the endless clouds, Zhuo, Luo Xing and Qing Lian stepped on the 7-colored stairway to heaven, quickly descending. Although the fog around them was extremely dense, to the point where they couldn't even see their own fingers, it wasn't difficult for the 3 of them to detect the fog with their cultivation and powerful senses. Careful, there seems to be movement 100 miles away. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.